Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Triggering Chaos presents. What is this? What we used to do? Semi-perfect this time, Em?
This is definitely sounding perfect.
I figured. I mean, it may have had some downfalls, but it kept going like a true trooper. We are talking about Zelda series from the start to. I think Breath of the Wild is still the last game they came out with.
Yeah, I didn't include any images for the next game, Tears of the Kingdom, because there's not too much images out there quite yet.
No, that and doesn't that come out this year supposedly?
It will come out this year. I guarantee you it's going to be Game of the Year, with second place is probably going to be 16.
What do you think?
Office
It's second or
16.
third quarter of the year?
I believe it's going to be second quarter.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be first quarter. They would have made some announcement for that by now. I would think.
16 is going to be third quarter.
Yeah, I'm thinking second quarter.
Although there's a distinct possibility that because it's a Nintendo game, it could be pushed back again.
Well, they can't deny it.
Several Zelda games have been in development hell for many years. I think the longest one was 5 years in development.
Yeah, not sure which one that is, but I know that has happened.
It's multiple actually, but it all started back on the Famicom. So this is the original box art for the original Famicom cartridge version of Legend of Zelda.
And
It
just
later got it later got upgraded to a Famicom disk drive version.
yeah, and just so you're aware, the Famicom is what the Japanese call the Nintendo, just in case.
There are some specific hardware differences between the Famicom and the Nintendo Entertainment System. For example, one of the differences actually was taken advantage of in the original Zelda game, but that's neither here nor there. But the Legend of Zelda game it started off with, well, Shigeru Miyamoto, one of the most famous game designers, wanting to recreate his youth of exploring random wilderness and caves around his little home village. So it's an adventure game. It is probably the quintessential birth adventure games. There are adventure games that came before. In fact, I know of one. I think it was just called Adventure.
How's that for a title? Confusing.
For the Atari, well, the Atari 2600 had titles like Adventure, Football, Soccer,
Yes, I like that adventure
Hockey.
game. What adventure game? The adventure game.
Oh yes, yes, yes. But you play as not Zelda. You play as the character that is known as Link, but you name this character every so often. His name is Link because he is what connects you or links you to the game world.
Or essentially links this entire world together by doing all the quests. So it's a multi-layered version of this.
Most people just say he's the link between the player and the reality of the
I'm just
game.
saying I can really kind of see it either or. So it's kind of
Yes, but you can name him whatever you want as long as you can fit it within the um, character limits. I think it's usually actually Zelda's one of the few games I know with many character limits. I could put my entire long ass name in there as a kid.
yeah. There was I forget
Not
how long
many.
it was, but
Most
moving on.
games I had 4 character limits, which was not even long enough to put the abridged version of my name, which I don't even like. Anywho, you basically went around finding dungeons and collecting shards of an item to gather all 8 shards to save the princess from the final ninth dungeon, and that was the entire quest of the game.
And this has not changed for the majority of it.
The difference is,
What the
the
magic
average.
MacGuffins are in the first place.
No, what I was going to say, Soul, is have you ever played the original Zelda game?
Yes.
How well do you think it helps the newbie players? That's the major difference.
Yeah.
Zelda has gone from a game where here you are, you don't even start with a weapon. You gotta find your first weapon on your own. It's right next to you pretty much, but you may not be inclined to enter a dark, spooky cave when you just starting a game. I know.
Here, take this sword. It's dangerous to go alone, but I'm still going alone. This has not changed anything.
I know, but it's dangerous to go alone, so you'll need a weapon. That's what that means, so I know that line bugs you, but that is literally what that means. It's a character limitation.
I know, but at the same time, you think if they ever, when they did the remake, they could have said it's dangerous to go unarmed or something.
No, they wouldn't say that because that still doesn't. That's even more clunky to say.
But it makes more
Eh,
sense.
No, it makes the same amount of sense.
No, it doesn't.
It's dangerous to go alone, but we are aware you have no choice but to go alone. I'm an old man. I can barely leave my cave. How am
It's
I supposed to
dangerous to
help you?
go unarmed. Here's a weapon.
That does not flow as a normal sentence, Saul.
I don't know who you talk to. That doesn't make sense.
Oh, it makes sense. It just doesn't flow as well.
It flows just fine to me.
It doesn't flow to the vast majority of people. Besides, this is an iconic quotable line that people have been quoting for
Just
decades.
because
They're
people quote
never.
it doesn't make it a good line.
It doesn't, but it does make it iconic that if you remove it, more people will be upset than if you are correct about it.
But I
Anywho,
think
the first Zelda game is often complained by people saying you need to go bomb every wall, burn every bush to find all the items. Technically, you only ever need to burn one bush in the entire game, and yes, there are a lot of walls you need to bomb, especially in the overworld map. I hate the overworld map of the original Zelda game. This game, in my opinion, has not aged well.
no, but I think it's one of those games that because of the way it is, it can't age well unless you do a
No.
heavy rework on the game.
It has first game in series problems. A lot of first games in the series
Mhm.
are oftentimes either the worst or at least the hardest to go back
Yeah,
to.
you applaud it for what
Person,
it is, but at the same
yeah.
time, in order to fix what's wrong, you have the question: would it still be the same game?
So it's played in basically a top-down perspective. For the sequel, they threw pretty much everything out and you play it from a 2D perspective, except for the overworld map,
Hmm.
which behaves kind of like a JRPG where you have random encounters.
Now,
Only
this
you
is
can.
the one I actually beat.
I have only beaten this game once, and I may or may not have used save states to help me because I'm terrible at Link's
Well,
Adventure.
funny story.
Adventure of Link.
One of the ways this game works like an RPG is that
Mhm.
as you gain points, you can level up your stats. I
In the
didn't
North
know
Amer-
this at first.
in the North American version, you don't get to choose what you level up. In every, I think even in the European version, you can like.
No,
I
I'm
want to
pretty sure you
dump
can do it
every.
in the American version.
No, no, you cannot. I know for a fact you cannot. It predetermines what you level up every time.
I'll have to double check that now because I'm pretty sure I could.
No, I know for a fact. I rewatched a video about this.
Mm.
What you may have been playing is a ROM of the Japanese version with English subtitles because that's been done a lot
No,
of
I have the
times.
original cartridge. That's what I was played.
Hmm. I just know you can't level up whatever you want. You have to go by a set pattern of health first, magic, weapon. Health, magic, weapon. Health, magic, weapon. Where in the Japanese version, you could just dump everything into weapon and just be fine.
Mm.
I wouldn't recommend that, but this game is brutally hard. This is definitely the hardest in the franchise.
Yeah, but I
It's it's
not to
it's a bit
say
more.
it's a one for one relation, but it's kind of like the Dark Souls hard, where it's a fair hardness, in my opinion.
Yeah, the hardest part for me is the clunky controls. I don't hate this one. I just don't want to go back to it. It's also a lot more straightforward path. It's a lot easier to get through this game. You won't get lost as much as you will in the first one,
Hmm.
but the combat is way more brutal. But
And
it did introduce some sword techniques that Link came back to use later. Although the dumbest one is the up thrust, where you have to jump and attack upwards.
yeah, one of the more common themes, I don't know, I forget if it was in the first one, was the sword beam. I don't
The
know if that
sword
was
beam
in.
was in the first one.
Okay,
The sword beam is only accessible to you at full HP. If you get hit once, bye bye beam, bye bye.
but once you get full health again, you have it back again. It's not something you lose
No,
once and you can never get it back.
no.
So,
Honestly, I think the duology on the NES / Famicom are important. But I do not think they are necessary to play for fans of the series.
no,
If
but
if you just,
they're
I
not,
do
they're a
like it.
nice retro touch to kind of
Yeah,
see where the
and
roots are.
they really do set up the idea of the kingdom of Hyrule as a
Hmm.
place that is bespeeched by monsters. The first
Yeah,
game, you meet nobody besides hermits living in caves, and the second game, you actually go to villages. So it does feel like the land is returning. And they are one of the few games that are in this franchise sequels to each other. They are
yeah,
tied.
we'll talk about that later down the road. But right now, at this
The,
point, after this one, a lot of them kind of have
no real ties to each other. They
or a
are
really
tied.
disgruntled timeline.
I do not like the official Nintendo timeline, but that's a video for another day.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Right now, we'll just talk about them as a game,
The
preferably.
next one, honestly, I think is one of the best ones in the franchise. This is the one that got me into the. This is the first one I played. This is the Super Nintendo. This, in my opinion, if it's not the best Super Nintendo game, it's the best Nintendo game on the Super Nintendo.
Now, this actually is my second favorite Nintendo game. Maybe third, depending upon how you look at it. But
Like,
in order to bring up the list, it'd be too long, and I don't want to go into there.
yeah,
Not right now,
but yeah,
anyway.
this one is usually at people's top of their list of, hey, what's the best game on the Super Nintendo? It's usually either Link to the Past, Chrono Trigger, one of the Final Fantasies, or Super Metroid, or Super Mario World. But Super Mario World is just
Yeah,
not
or
as
the
high.
rare person who picks Secret of Mana, one of those franchises, but that's a rare
Mhm.
case. But
Yeah, but this is the one that really cemented a lot of the best things about Zelda. First of all, the soundtrack. They are still homaging the soundtrack to this game, and
they're
they have
also
every
doing a
reason.
lot of. I know this game is very popular with the modding community.
Oh yes, you should see the. It's one of the most beloved games to do randomizers of.
Yeah. Plus, they also
Um,
do other mods with it too, putting in other characters that they made into. This was
my favorite.
16-bit, wasn't it?
This is the 16-bit one. Yeah,
Okay, because I
this
know
is.
Nintendo eventually got it up to 32-bit using the cartridge, but
They never really made a Zelda 30. They were working on a 30-bit Zelda game, but they decided to scrap it.
yeah, I couldn't remember. Didn't they scrap that for the next game coming up?
No, the game after.
Okay.
So, Link to the Past is also the first time they decided to really push the story in the game. It's a very shallow story. It's evil wizard kidnapping maidens to open portal to Dark World to free evil monster.
Yeah, it's generic story, but at the same time, at least more people are willing to say more than just um, "I am pause," "I am error." Um,
I am Bug.
yeah,
It's a secret to everyone, although that is used in this game.
yeah. I forget where that originated from, but I know it wasn't this game.
A secret to everyone's from the first Zelda game, where you blew up a wall and a monster would give you money, so you'd go away.
Ah,
The line basically refers to, I don't want to fight. I don't want to be a monster. Here, I give this money and keep me a secret to everyone. But due to localization limitations of characters, it became it's a secret to everyone. Which,
okay.
much like the line Soul hates, it gets the point across in the limited fashion it could, and it's become a quoted line forever. Link to the Past is also the first one to really cement that there are an order to the dungeons that they want you to do.
You don't have
There's
to do
a
it that way.
Yeah, there's a little wiggle room in the second half of the game, but not much.
That wiggle room is, uh, for one part, is what makes this game great for randomizing
Hmm.
because it's not a huge amount of wiggle room, especially unless you have certain items.
Yeah, it's
But
also the one that did something I wish they'd bring back, which in every Zelda game passes one, there is keys for the doors and the big key for the boss. These dungeons have a big key for the boss that also opens up the item chest. So if you want to get the palace dungeon's item, you need the big key, which then lets you get to the second part of the dungeon where the boss is hidden.
mm-hmm.
Because most of the dungeons in later games you use the big key and you immediately find the boss. In this one, you use the big key and oh hey, there's more of the dungeon where the boss is in that section of the dungeon, but it just feels like the big key is the halfway item for some.
Yeah,
For a handful, the boss is pretty much like 3 rooms down. Like oh hey, this is not much of a threat to the boss. It's just set dressing.
I think that has a lot to do with they may have run out with ideas for certain things,
Hmm.
or
It's also the first one to really try and push puzzles. There were puzzles in the first two games, but the puzzles were more along the lines of kill every enemy, so now you have the ability to move a block to find stairs.
more just push block on
Yeah,
pedestal or switch.
this one is the one that really established the fundamental puzzles I like and also dislike is in the Ice Palace, where you need to blow up a wall, blow up the floor, and jump down that way because you realize, oh, hey, I need to get to a part of this room. Oh, that room's right above it. But you need to find how to get to that part of the room where the crack in the floor
This
is.
was also one of the games that introduced you to the horror that is knockback, especially with that one
Oh,
boss.
yeah, boss three. Oh, God. I forget his name. It's in the tower, I think Hemlock Tower? I
Yeah,
can't remember
but
the name
it's
of the
a
tower.
giant
Worm.
centipede like or worm thing with a spinny tail.
Yeah, every time he knocks you off to the lower floor, the floor below him, he recovers full HP.
Mm-hmm.
You have to hit his tail, and he bumps into you, sending you flying. If you slash into him, you slightly get pushed back because he's a rock hard body. I think you even get a little bit pushed back when you hit his weak spot, but not much.
Yeah, or
And
you
every
hit
time,
his weak spot, and then you hit his body. So
every time you hit him, he gets faster and faster. I mean, to be fair, he knocks you down into a room full of hearts to heal yourself with, but those don't replenish unless you leave the dungeon.
yeah, and he's not hard. It's just more annoying than anything because you can't have your shield up to block the damage, but you still get knocked back.
Well, the shield doesn't block damage like that in this game at all. It only blocks projectiles.
Maybe I'm thinking of something. Oh, I'm thinking of something different. Never
The
mind.
3D games are one that introduced that the shield can block
Yeah,
physical damage. Well, no, technically two did, but only swords, and you had to have your shield up or down.
yeah. But he doesn't do. He didn't do a lot of damage. Then that's what
Mhm.
might be what I'm getting confused with.
Yeah. Regardless, though, this for the longest time was my second to third favorite Zelda game. Now it's my fourth, thanks
If
to
I
Breath of the Wild.
also remember, I think this one also introduced the multi-form bosses. If I remember right.
Uh, Not really.
I'm trying to remember if it did or not.
Some bosses had pinch modes. When they get injured, they would turn red and move faster, but it's not like a new form.
Yeah, but let's see here. Go there.
So this is Link's Awakening. I adore the Japanese box art. The box art for the North
Yep,
American
let
one
me
is pretty
just
much the
shrink that a little bit. Get that all the way there.
the, the box art for the North American version is pretty much exactly the same as the last game and the next game. So I wanted a splash of color here because this one is also a sequel to the previous one, Link to the Past.
Mm-hmm.
These two are connected.
I just got one question.
Mhm.
When did Mario get an island?
Mario has had Island multiple times. Remember, Mario has a giant robot version of himself in one game. Also for the Game Boy, yes. So we went from NES, Super Nintendo, Game Boy. This one is the foundation for two of my later favorite games. It is really good, but the twist of the story is so hinted at early on in the game, it never surprised me as a child. But this is also one that tries to tell a heartfelt story, and I do think this is a really good Zelda game. It's also a weird one because
Yeah, this is
you
also
fight Kirby in this one. Multiple Kirby's.
really.
Yeah, there's a room where there's multiple Kirby's that try to inhale you, and you just stab them. And oh no, Kirby is the most destructive force in the universe.
They were fake Kirby's,
I think that's actually what they're called.
but
But you also get to jump on Goombas, fight piranha plants, and Mario's bloopers.
oh, and
Yeah, it's
take
not.
a chomper for a walk.
Yeah, Chain Chomp,
Chain chomp, that was it.
which is inspired by a giant dog that scared Miyamoto when he was a child. I love that story.
But your goal in this game is to get to is to wake up that giant egg behind Link
Hmm.
by using magical instrument MacGuffins.
Yeah, this is the one that establishes the trend of finding 8 MacGuffins,
Yeah,
or
this is
six
also
MacGuffins, or
one of
four
the
MacGuffins.
few handful, as far as I'm aware, that didn't have the reoccurring main villain at the end.
Yeah, there's not even Zelda. This is the first one that has Zelda in it.
Yeah, I forgot about it. We have kind of the
Closest,
Zora stand-in.
yeah, the closest is Malon in the background, the girl with the red hair. She's the closest to a Zelda stand-in, but she
Hmm.
is not
This is
Zelda.
technically Mal's first appearance.
No, it's not the same Malon. Marin's her name.
Man, yeah,
Malon's a different character. They do clearly have inspiration from each other, but
yeah,
regardless, was so good they re-released it a couple years later with Link's Awakening VX, which added the amazing technology of color.
yeah, and a red and blue shirt that made you stronger, more defensive.
Yep, the DX version is really good. It's how I first played
They
this game.
also re-released it for the Switch.
Yes, I do think the Switch version is good, but I can understand why some people aren't as fond of it. I think playing the Switch version is much better for a more modern gamer. But if you like more retro things, I still think the original, or at least the DX version, is technically the superior version, just slightly.
I'm just glad to at least give there's a chance for you to try either or nowadays.
Well, it's getting harder to try the old one because
Yeah,
of Nintendo's getting rid of the eShop.
Yeah, but I'm I at
Yeah,
least there's a chance to try it in one form or another.
yes, it's not exactly a rare
I mean,
game.
it's not like you can't say that the new one is
No,
changed
I,
too much. It just pretty much gave it a graphical overhaul from what I've heard.
it's a little bit more on the awkward side, but that's just my muscle memory,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't have as much charm because they went for like a dollhouse kind of aesthetic for the game. It feels more lifeless to me.
Yeah. It might be the same
But
problem that I have with one of the later games coming up, but
yeah, but to be fair, they did increase the option of you have more than two face buttons. The biggest problem in this game, if you wanted to use any item, let's say you have your sword and shield equipped, you had to hit start, unequip the sword and shield from B or A, put on like the bracelet so you can pick up things. Oh, hey, now I need to defend myself. Better take the bracelet off by hitting pause, putting the shield back on. Hmm. Oh, I need to do a trick. Well, let me take my sword and shield off to equip bombs and arrows to fire my bombs a long distance.
yeah, that was one of the neater things you could do with this is if you equipped certain weapons and
Mhm.
items, you could do like a bomb arrow.
The
Um,
feather plus the Pegasus boot let you do a super jump.
mm-hmm. Was there something with the boomerang, or am I thinking wrong?
No, the boomerang was just superly overpowered in this game because you had to do an entire quest to get the boomerang.
Yeah, that's right, but it was very useful.
Yes, but
But
you had to
yeah,
give up one item for it. Most people give up their shovel, but every now and then I'm like, but I need the shovel to find money. I was not very good at this game when I was a child. I was what,
I just
7 when I
spent
first
so many
played
times
this.
going back and forth with bushes and everything like that. I didn't have to worry about money.
I found money drop better when I dug for it.
Mm. Oddly enough, I
Anyway,
found
this
Heartstrap more when I dug around.
I found the hardest of bushes. Maybe I just had the weird version. Regardless, I this we won't. Okay, we're going to the next one. This is Ocarina of Time. This is the first 3D one. This is considered to be, if not the best game ever, the best Zelda game. It's not even my top five.
It is one of the better Nintendo games, however.
It is definitely was a selling point for the N64, and I do say it deserves a lot of its praise. It's still referenced for design purposes for games later. Like the guys who make Dark Souls have said a lot of their stuff is inspired due to a
Mm-hmm.
lot of Ocarina of Time. And
I think this was also what a lot of people considered like the 3D remake of Zelda.
yes,
I think it was
it isn't. It feels more
no.
like a let's just do Link's Awake, a Link to the Past again.
That was the one they were referencing it to. I couldn't think of the title off the top of
Yeah,
my head for some reason.
yeah.
But they
But
said it was just a 3D version of that game, and there is a lot of similarities.
yeah, same
Getting
town
the three
name.
items at the start and then going for the main quest after that.
Mhm. It's also a lot more linear than even Link to the Past. This is the one that really started to make Zelda games a straight path. There was a
Mm-hmm.
lot less you're allowed to explore and wiggle, and the vast majority of players prefer that.
I also like the fact that you could use your master sword is what the technical ultimate weapon in the game is usually
Yeah,
called. You had other weapons for a main weapon that you'd use, like the big round sword. You go through a whole quest for that weapon.
it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
You also can technically use the hammer when you get that as a substitute for your sword,
Or a stick.
but only when you're a child. Yet this game separates its two modes from you start off as a little child, and then 7 years later you're an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some differences. The two links have different inventories. Like Kid Link cannot use the bow and arrow, and the adult cannot use the slingshot, which I always found weird to me. Like I understand the slingshot not doing damage to certain things. That's totally fine. You fire like little pellets.
I
You'll
also like
see.
the fact that Little Link wasn't big enough to use the Hylian shield properly, so he just
Oh,
ducked underneath it.
he's just wearing like a backpack,
He's going turtle, quick, get him!
which is really good to protect yourself from damage from a lot of things.
Yeah, especially from above when you're like climbing Mount.
Death Mountain, yeah,
Yeah,
you could not climb Death Mountain without that rock as a child. But as an adult now, I definitely can. I'm not scared of that anymore. I don't even bother with the shield most times when I play this game.
I just buy because it's the iconic shield. I mean,
Oh, you bought it. I always grave robbed for it as a child.
well, one of
That's
us
right.
is the villain here.
Eh, they're not using it. Plus, I think you're being ripped off for that shield.
Probably.
Yeah. Uh, this one, like I said, I I'm not hating on it for the sake of hating on it. I just think games that came later just did other things a lot better than this one. Like
Well, I
I'm sick.
think much like the first Zelda, it was a stepping stone into something greater.
Yeah, I do not want to be in the timeline where we don't have this game.
Yeah, because
I
this
don't
was
want.
definitely it where it still fell flat in a lot of places.
Yeah,
There was the first time going 3D, which always some games always had an issue with. So this game is not perfectly controlled.
no. Although
I
this
always
one,
had a problem with the N64 with the camera, with the four buttons to control the camera rather than an analog stick.
which they didn't even use the camera for the C buttons for that for this one. That was your inventory.
Yeah, so that was always kind of a weird thing.
Yeah. Do think that Zelda had a better transition from 3D from 2D to 3D than even Mario did. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Mario 64. It's one of my favorite Mario games. But I'm kind of glad that Zelda Ocarina of Time was not a launch title for the N64. I'm glad they let it cook for a little bit longer.
The only thing I'll say is that I like being able to control the camera better in Mario 64, in my opinion, because I
Yes,
could better maneuver it even with the buttons. But
but there
it's
is one thing I want to bring up about Ocarina of Time that is divisive.
mm-hmm.
This introduced the helper friend for Link. This
Ah,
introduced Navi, and various characters after Navi have been more or less helpful, but Navi was used as a excuse for how Link could target on things, and they figured, why don't we make that into a character? Which is a very Nintendo thing of, we have a device we want to do in game, or a mechanic we want to do in game. How do we explain it? Let's make the mechanic a character. And that's actually rather clever. Now, most people I know as a hated Navi at first because, watch out! Hey, listen!
yeah.
Watch out! She got kind of annoying. She also really is annoying on replays because every time you replay this game, she explains without prompt how to use a door.
I mean, it's more to the point that I think for someone that you're going to be repeatedly talking to, that pitch tone of her going, "Hey, hey, listen, listen,"
Yeah.
can was just annoying. And
If you take too long in the field, she'll say, "Hey, why don't you? Hey, listen, why don't you call someone for advice?" Abby, I'm gathering like upgrades for myself. I know what I'm doing.
yeah, I think this one also had my favorite fishing game too.
Oh, the fishing minigame was nice in this one. Yeah,
Also, you can
not my
cheat
favorite.
and use the iron boots and stuff to make it breathe underwater, so you just fish right next to the fish you want.
You also could steal the guy's hat.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I love stealing that guy's hat.
I think it's just cheating, just be able to walk up to the fish, just offer it the bait, and then pretty much just grab it 2 feet away from you.
Yep. But overall, like I said, this is deserving of its praise. It's just not my favorite Zelda game.
Yeah, like I
Like
said, I think
it's
the only two issues I had was the 3D camera was a little awkward. It got better when you were
mm,
able to lock on to things because it helped
yeah,
you stay focused
yeah.
on. But at the same time,
Exploring the room, like there's one key in the forest temple that I could not find for a solid year. Turns out I had to climb the wall, then climb onto a tree and open a small chest.
yeah.
I hate that key.
Um,
I hate the forest temple, but oh, yeah, this one is the one that establishes that my least favorite style of dungeon are the forest dungeons. They're never my favorite. They're usually my least favorite, and they're usually either the first or second. And I'm just like, God damn it, not another forest temple.
well, at least you get them out of the way faster that way.
They feel like they drag on the longest though.
And I think the
This
other
one
thing,
also introduced the infamous water temple, which is the bane of many people's childhood. I didn't like the water temple, but I appreciate now as an adult looking back at the design of it. Like, oh wow, this is probably the least linear dungeon we have. I do admit I hated hitting the pause button, turning the page menu, equipping the iron boots so I could sink, waiting for Link to sink to the bottom of the ground, walking forward, getting to a part of the room where I need to go up, hitting the pause menu, turning the
yeah, didn't
page,
they make a remake for
unequipping
this
the boots.
game where they could you had an extra button for that?
Yeah, you could have put the iron boots on your inventory, but you still needed a pause every now and then to equip different weapons. But regardless, the waiting of the water temple is the annoying part. It's not so much the maze part of it. Regardless, you're going up or down, floating is so slow.
Yeah,
I imagine the water temple. for 100% speed runs is the worst.
I mean, you really have to know how far down you have to go before you do certain events and stuff like that. So I don't have to imagine. I'd have to agree. Yeah.
The 0% or any percent speed run this game I think is now two is like 30 seconds.
Well, that's like warps and other things. It's like Jesus
Someone's
Christ.
able to beat this game in the I think it's 10-minute preview of Ocarina of Time inside Super Smash Bros. Brawl. When originally this game took me what 50 hours because I was terrible at it as a child. It's so child to be hearing someone could beat it in a demo version.
I think the average time to beat this game now for most average players is kind of like somewhere between 10 to 12 hours,
Yeah, if
maybe a
you're doing a
little less.
100%, if you're doing a 100% run,
Yeah. But this did lead to our next game.
which for a lot,
Uh,
oh yeah,
uh,
that's the 3D remake of it. I like that box art a lot.
yeah, this is the one that gave us the ability to equip the boots
Yeah,
on an item rather than just.
personally, if you ask me, I think this is the best way to play Ocarina of Time now. Some people say that's sacrilegious. Eh,
I mean, as long as the changes are more. How do I want to put this?
I think it looks better. I think it handles better, and I think the redesign to your having certain items actually items rather than
Yeah, because there's always some
equipment.
concern about when they remake a game like this. There's some concerns
Hmm.
about what they change.
Yeah.
And the only things they really
I,
change are for the better, like the boots, the
mhm.
camera, polish up the graphics a little bit to what they could.
Yeah.
Um, but generally, it wasn't all. Everything they changed was for the benefit. They didn't really try and please anyone besides.
Yeah. This is for fans of Ocarina of Time or those who never got to experience it.
Yeah,
Plus, it's on the handheld. I can take it wherever I want to go.
yeah, that was always a benefit. But this one is actually also a sequel.
Yeah, this is the 3DS remake of Majora's Mask, which again I think is the superior version of it, which I know a lot of people hate might be too strong, but prefer the original N64 version of it. I don't. I think the N64 version is not very well optimized.
I'm kind of indifferent to either or, which one's better.
Mhm.
I can say one definitely has better mechanics, but
Yeah,
I kind of still have the nostalgic feel for the N64 versions because I played those so much.
I played that one a lot. My nostalgia goggles do not blind me though at all. But yeah, once again, we have two Zelda games that are one's a sequel to each other. Don't get used to that trend.
Now this
Don't
one
get used to
had
that trend. It's weird.
yeah. Now this one has our young Link a little bit older.
Yeah. The end of the last game, you go back in time, get to relive your childhood, which causes the timeline to split into three, which I don't buy into that split at all. Regardless, this Link has his experiences as an adult who saved the day and is now on a quest to find his lost friend. And gets sucked into a parallel universe which might actually only exist inside his brain, according to some fans.
I can kind of see that a point, but there's too many things that
Or exists only in the brain of the antagonist, which again I can see, but I still prefer Termina just being its own place, independent of Link or the Skull Kid, which is the main villain of the game.
yeah, this is one of the weirder games for that too.
This is definitely the weirdest
I mean, there's not many
in
games
times.
where I can say the moon's gonna crash down on me, glaring at me as it does so.
Yeah, that's why I like this box art so much. The original box art is just the logo of the There's no Zelda Majora's Mask with the mask there, nothing else. But this one shows you the horrifying, angry moon that wishes to smush you like a pancake, and that moon is overhead all game.
Mm-hmm.
There's even some places times you can see it indoors, and it just looms there. You have 3 days. You can rewind time back to the start of 3 days, but when you do so, you lose almost all of your progress. You have 3 days to find a way to stop that moon from smushing this entire kingdom.
It also has one of my favorite power systems, the
Mm,
masks.
yes. At various points in the game, you get to turn into different species thanks to these masks. We'll go over those species later on at the end of this, near the end of this
Mm-hmm.
video, but you get wood wood spirit powers, rock spirit powers, and water spirit powers to be really quick about it.
Yeah, the other
And
matches give you certain special abilities as well.
yeah, so these will give you like The mask he's holding right there in his hand, the Mask of Truth, lets you read minds of animals you can pick up, or read gossip stones for hints,
The bunny hood lets you run faster.
and
Very
also let you
useful.
hear better.
I didn't know about that one. I usually just use it for
If
running
you're
faster.
playing a mini game where you need to count seconds, you can actually hear a clock when you're wearing it, which lets you get the postman's hat, which lets you open the post boxes and get a health point.
Huh? Did not know that.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are really interesting about that.
Huh. The
Yeah,
more you know.
yeah.
But I think
Various
everyone's
masks have
favorite mask, the Great Deku mask.
great deity mask
No, I said
and
Deku. Dekus are
great.
amazing.
Oh, it's all not called the Great Deku mask. It's just called the Deku mask.
But no,
And
the
most
Great
people I
Deity
know,
mask. That thing
the
is,
Fierce Deity mask is what it's technically called.
yeah.
That one is your reward for getting every mask in the game.
Yeah, I think there's like 20 plus masks.
About that, yeah. I
Because I know
can't
they're
remember.
divided into four groups. Like, you gotta give a certain amount to four people.
Yeah.
But I forget what the exact number is for that.
The first one wants two, one at a time. Second one wants uh, four, two at a time, then so on and so forth.
Yeah. But then you run through a certain dungeons after that, and your reward for doing all this, collecting all the masks, is the Fierce
Is
Deity mask.
which is the ultimate boss layer. It's only good for bosses, and it basically is easy mode.
Yeah, but also makes fighting all the bosses one more time quick so you can have time to screw around.
Except for the 3DS version, where you can't really fight the fish mask with that one. You need to use Zora form, which I know a lot of people hate, but I actually kind of prefer it because it makes the Zora feel more useful.
Eh,
Regardless, this game is also all about uh, misery, helping people with coping with loss, with fear. It is a very emotional game. People consider this the darkest Zelda game, but actually, you could argue almost any Zelda game is the darkest Zelda game if you really look into things.
yeah.
This one is an emotional trip, though.
Oh,
You
is it
get
ever?
pulled. You get pulled into a world where people are either denying they're going to die, do not believe they're going to die, or have accepted they're going to die, and you have to help them cope with these three states in times.
Or try and
Because
run for all they're worth.
yeah, because there's a difference between denying you're going to die and not believing you're going to die. Not knowing you're going to die is probably the better. Denying you're going to die, that ain't healthy.
Yeah.
Especially when you. But I do love at one point you actually get to go to a town debate between the construction company and the town guards. The guards like, we're going to die. We need to get the civilians to safety as fast as we can. And the construction guy's like, no, we need to build the festival. We do it every few years. This needs to be done for tradition. And the mayor is just stuck there going, can I? And they won't even let the poor mayor get a word in edgewise.
I was surprised they didn't say, hey, let's try and build a brace for the moon to keep it from falling on us.
Well, the construction guys do not believe the moon's going to fall. They're the ones in complete utter denial because they're like, we need to do this because this is tradition and we get paid to do this tradition. And if we don't do this, I can't feed my family.
You know, at day three, when the moon's about, you can pretty much pick the moon's nose. I think you might want to stop being in denial.
He kind of is at that point because at that point there was actually tremors because the moon is so close.
Yeah, makes sense. But
This is this is my second favorite Zelda game. This is the one I really can just go back to really easily, and the 3DS version just lets me do it so easily.
yeah, I do think that if I was to nitpick some problems with this one, just for the sake of fairness,
Mhm.
some of the side quests can be a bit tedious.
Yeah, that's fair. Some of them
And
also feel really pointless.
yeah, I mean,
And not every mask has more than one use. Like I described the postman's mask earlier, all you do is get one quarter of a heart piece from it. That is it.
I also think that they could have let you have a run without the bunny hood and just give you a really fast beat with the bunny hood. Because you
That
feel
would be,
so slow once you get that bunny hood.
well, that's why I spend most of my time as a Goron rolling around at the speed of sound.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's how I usually got around.
Yes. Um, like I said, not every mask has multiple purposes. Some have only one, but you can basically wear them at all
Hmm.
times.
I mean, it's a fun little gimmick, but there's the one mask that you only have to see the with the lovers. You just gotta
Yeah.
wear the mask while talking to
Oh god,
the
that
woman.
mask is so hard to get, and it only is for a heart piece. Actually, a lot of the really hardest ones are only for like a heart piece,
Hmm.
or even like a bottle of milk.
And then once that's done with the mask, is pretty much useless,
Hmm.
except to get the final Great Fierce Deity mask. But
Hmm. Like I understand that they literally could not have made every mask multi-purpose, but maybe cut back in a few or combine several masks would have been better.
yeah, but I
But
like I
that
said, my
just
biggest nitpick was the fact unless you had the bunny hood, you felt way too slow just running around.
my only actual nitpick between the 3DS and the original version is the original version had a better Garo mask, while the 3DS one gives you the Garo leader head, which is not as impressive. It's just a hood with
Oh yeah,
a
that I forgot
blank
about those.
face and two piercing white eyes.
I
That was cool.
did
That
like
was
that because I like fighting those guys.
the Garos were awesome.
Yeah,
Only in one game though.
yeah. I think they tried to replace us with somebody else. We'll talk about later.
Yes and no. Anyway, we're on to the next game.
Give me one moment.
Hmm.
Let me just check size. I can get that a little bit bigger.
This is two games in one, but also two games separate. This is Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, which almost became three games. Oracle of Secrets would have been the third one, but this is the first one not made by Nintendo. That's good. There are games before that were not made by Nintendo that are terrible. We will not mention here, but
Hmm.
these were made by Capcom.
Oh, I
Yes,
forgot that you made these.
this is made by the Blue Bomber team. Well, not exactly. There are a few, but this is the Capcom's. Capcom came up to Nintendo saying, "Hey, can we make a couple of Zelda games for you, like a remake of the first game on Game Boy Advance?" And when they started making it, the dev team just had more and more unique ideas, and they're like, "Oh, we're not making the remake we promised Nintendo." Mr. Miyamoto, here's what we have. Ooh, these are lovely. Why not make three games? A couple years, like a year or so later, they're like, we're having a problem making three games. Okay, just make two. But
This
yeah,
is where
these are, if you allow me to combine them, they're my uh, fifth favorite Zelda game. If you tell me I have to have them separate, then there's six and seven.
yeah. It's also a
Uh,
funny thing because I think there's a way to connect these games to get to like the secret boss.
yes, when you beat, say, Oracle Ages first, it gives you I think it's a 24-digit code that you take this code and enter it in seasons, and then you get to carry over a few things from ages to seasons and get the true ending. You
Ah.
can do either or. There is no canonical version to do it. But if you do this, you can go back to, let's say you start with Ages first, go back to Ages, do a few extra post game side quests for upgraded weapons. You can take those upgraded weapons and then bring them to seasons, and vice versa. Either way,
Hmm.
and some of your decisions in the first game will impact the second one. There's an animal buddy you get in these games. If you get, say, the swimming Dodongo in Ages, transfer the seasons, you're stuck with the swimming Dodongo. You can't change between the two.
Yeah.
So if you want to have the boxing kangaroo, you have to go for the boxing kangaroo for both. I like Rick. Rick is really cool. Mushu the flying bear is the worst one, hands down.
I'm sorry. I just like anytime I get a boxing kangaroo, was awesome.
Dimitri the Dodongo is my favorite because he just swims and goes and eats an entire enemy whole. That's it. He's slow as frig, but just the idea of me riding a dinosaur that's supposed to breathe fire but is swimming up a waterfall and eating monsters is just hilarious to me.
Yoshi?
Uh, Basically Yoshi if he could swim better,
But
and also looked like he was wearing body armor.
these games take a lot more after Link's Awakening, I find.
Yeah, they use basically the same engine. They have the same flaw of you only have two inventory slots and you need to constantly pause and switch things out, but they are better for it. Like
I'm
they go
hoping these might
longer.
get a remake.
Oh, there have been rumors about it for years. I hope the hell they do get a remake, and I kind of hope if they do, they are just fused.
I mean, they did
And
do
I,
the remake for Link's Awakening not
yeah,
too
and
too
that
long
that
ago.
sold like hotcakes. And I hope if they do fuse them, they get a lot of the stuff that was left for Oracle of Secrets pushed in.
Yeah.
Plus, the head creator of this game, who he's no longer at Capcom. You know where he went to, Soul?
Konami?
Nintendo.
Ah, there you go.
So they can get the director of this game back. And he does have a soft spot for the Oracle games.
I
And
mean, side by side, they're almost in a lot of places they are almost exactly the same game.
Yeah, Ages is more puzzle oriented. Seasons is more battle oriented. Ages has more of a two overworlds. It has a past and a present version of the overworld. Seasons has a smaller map, but you have to control the four seasons, and it really does change the outside. Neither dungeon takes advantage of these mechanics, and neither game takes advantage of these in dungeons, which really annoyed me. I wish you could do. There's only one dungeon that's in the past and present in Ages, and season none of them are impacted by the seasons.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be easier to impact the dungeon with the ages,
Mm.
depending
Well,
upon how you set up the dungeon.
there's a couple dungeons that are like living trees. You could like impact the weather so it's less alive or has more branches.
Well,
Could
no,
have
I'm just saying.
worked.
I think
Oh
depend
yeah,
if you.
it's definitely easier to impact the past or the
Yeah,
present. Like you blow up a wall in the past, it's still blown up in the present. Which
or
honestly, you'd
um,
think it'd be more easier to blow up in the present where it's older, but whatever.
or like I was about to say, the walls impervious in the past. You go to the present, and the walls crumble down.
Yeah,
Seasons, I
honest.
think, like if you're inside of a cave, unless it's summer or winter, it's not really going to impact anything with the seasons. Unless you just like,
Spring would have more flooding, so spring would also be impact.
well, depending
Fall,
on the cave. I'm just saying.
yeah, I'm just saying like it's summer and winter definitely have the most. Spring has a little bit of impact. Fall, it's just winter without the nice snow.
Yeah, snow is nice. You be
Fall is
snowballs to throw at people.
fall is just the filler season. But yeah, I really do enjoy Oracle Ages puzzles a lot more than I enjoyed Oracle Seasons Combat, but I still really enjoyed both. And I do agree. I still do find the whole item swapping to be rather tedious in places.
I think the remakes for the 3DS did it right by giving you more buttons to work with.
Yeah, which is why I hope these two get a remake. These two deserve a remake. Like, as much as I liked Majora's Mask 3D slightly more than the 3DS version, I don't think Majora's Mask needed a remake.
I
These two do.
Yeah, I think Majora's Mask just got it because Ocarina of
They,
Time was such a huge sale, and it was like
yeah, well, we have
they'd
to
be
now.
stupid not to capitalize.
They took a while to make it, though. They were teasing us about it for
Yeah,
years.
but at the same time, it's like you'd be stupid not to.
It's Nintendo. Sometimes they do really stupid
I
things.
can't argue that, but at the same time, it's kind of like
Yeah. So that's why I'm not sure these ones will ever get remade, but I hope the hell they do.
I just hope they get like um the same treatment instead of trying to change it too much. I mean, if they have
Mhm.
to leave it as two separate games, that's fine by me. Just sell them as a combo deal and leave it at that.
Don't pull what you did with Diamond and Pearl's remakes, where literally you buy Diamond and Pearl is on the cartridge too, just blocked by code.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting not to like Game Freak.
Well,
Anyway, let's get on to the next. This is the start of the era Soul's not too fond about. This is the remake of Link to the Past, but you notice there's something right here in the box. Plus new four swords? There was a additional game tacked on into this one where if you had three friends, all of you had Link to the Past with plus four swords for your Game Boy Advances, and that weird multi-cart thing for the link cables to make connect four Game Boys. You could run around as four links solving dungeons together.
to be fair, I'd like this. Me and my friends did this a lot.
But they're the first introduction of what's referred to as Toon Link. Which Soul does not like
Yeah,
Bobblehead Link.
no,
Bobblehead Link looks okay in the 2D games. I'm not too fond of how he looked in Wind Waker, but Wind Waker was such a good game, I got over it.
I couldn't get over
We'll,
it.
we'll
I
get to
was,
Wind Waker in a minute. This one is barely a new game, but it's often included in the timeline of Zelda games, and the story is part of the canon. So there you
mm,
go.
it's basically a link
Evil,
to the past, but then you have the secondary game being able to play with your friends, which a lot of people have been waiting for.
yes. This is not a very well done version of it, in my opinion. It's really awkward to get three friends with the proper equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, though, Zelda has the potential for multiplayer games,
Yes, yes, it
especially with
does.
how many races they have and how
Hmm.
well of a story they have.
Yep. The
And
story may sometimes be. paper thin, but the world building is fantastic for the Zelda franchise.
I mean, I've heard some people have been itching for like a Zelda MMO.
Yeah,
I gotta say it's not on my huge list, but I'm just saying I see the potential for where they're coming from.
I just want a decent co-op, like two people co-op.
Yeah, I
Is what I
mean,
want.
Dragon Quest X was a popular MMO,
Yeah,
so.
I'm not saying it can't be done. It's just
Oh
not
no,
on
I'm just
my.
saying I'm just saying I could see where they're coming from once you look at how big of a world the Zelda games are.
I just like how Nintendo's not afraid to experiment slightly with the Zelda franchise.
Hmm.
But we'll go on to the next game because there's really not much to talk about this one. This is the Wind Waker. This is the HD remake for the Wii U, but the original was a GameCube title, and this one's pretty divisive among fans.
Yeah, the world, the story. Well, most parts of the story I was found enjoyable because I couldn't stand the bobblehead, so I just watched somebody else play my friend play it.
Hmm. I definitely do not think you should ever play the GameCube version anymore. If you can get your hands on the Wii U and the Wii U version, play that one. It's better. It cuts out a lot of the pointless flapping about. Like, yes, they want you to explore this giant world map they have, this huge ocean, which for the longest time was one of the biggest overworlds in video game history. But it's tedious as frick.
Yeah,
I like
it's
exploring. I do not like being forced to explore. There's a major difference.
it's one of those things where for a huge open world there has to be things to fill the world with.
This
And
is
I
almost
think they tried to cheat that because there might have been like so many loading issues at some points that they did that.
yeah, I
With
definitely think they found a way to load things on the Z better.
Yeah, especially with the GameCube. With like, I'm not saying the GameCube was super limited, but I think
The GameCube was the powerhouse of that generation,
yeah.
though.
But I'm just
But
saying at
the problem was the tiny discs.
yeah. But I'm just saying if you consider how open world this was, if they tried to load that with items and shit like that, or ships, or even things like that,
Yeah,
I
it
think
would have
there
been.
would have been a lot more issues than there were.
Yeah,
And
a, lo- a lot of Wind Waker also does feel unfinished. It is one of the Zelda games they just released before they did 100%, and I wish they had added that stuff into the HD version, but they just
yeah,
poured it and gave you a lot of quality of life changes.
yeah. But also at the same time, I understand that exploring is a little harder in the open sea when you have a little boat.
Yes, tiny slow boat. Which the first thing the HD version is gives you a speed sail, which oh my god, that helps so much.
I'm sure it did. I think
It
that's one of
cuts
the other
down.
things that turned me off. Is like I do not want to sit here staring at Toon Link this long.
No, no, I liked it. The music was good, but having to get from some places to another, and yes, there is a teleport spell, but the teleport spell doesn't take you to every spot. It takes you like, please select one of these five locations. Shit, I still gotta sail for like a good solid 10 to 15 minutes before I get to the island I want, even if I get to the closest spot.
Hmm.
Or at least that's what it felt like. Like comparing this one to Majora's Mask, where you have 3 days and the in-game time is like I think an hour for those 3 days is like something
Something
like
to
that.
that
Like that.
effect.
It really feels like time is important and you have a lot to do and you're running around in this tiny world and it felt more impactful. This one feels like the reverse, where you have all the time you want and no real reason to do it.
I think that's really why a lot of people really have to be into this game itself in order to 100% it,
Mhm.
because you have to spend
This
so much time.
this is definitely one of those Zelda games where I've never 100% it. I never will.
Yeah, I
I just get
just
I just get like I like the story. I don't mind replaying it. I like the general idea of it, but it feels like just too much. It's like going to a huge buffet, putting everything on your plate, and then halfway finished eating, you're like, I regret my choices. But then when you pay your bill, you go home, you finish digesting food, you realize, you know what, that was a nice buffet. Enjoyed myself.
eh. But without, I don't want to do too much spoilers because in order to
Yeah,
really talk
I
parts of the story that I didn't like, I'd have to be spoiling some things.
yeah, and I
So
honestly do think a lot of these Zelda games, if you have not experienced them, experience them. Don't let someone ruin the stories. They're like I said, paper thin, but what they do is still really entertaining.
yeah,
And honestly, you do not need a super Shakespearean level play to enjoy a story.
no, I just between the graphics and some of this plot that I didn't like, I just really couldn't get into it to try and beat it myself.
Hmm.
I will just say one thing: if you do get in this game, master the parry system.
It's good. And it's really useful. I
Yeah,
like that.
you'll need it. Moving on.
Remember that Four Swords game we talked about one game before? Well, let's make it easier to get easier of access and an actual full standalone game.
I
All
love
you
this
need,
game.
all you needed was one GameCube, the disc, and four Game Boy Advances and the Game Boy cable. And the thing is, Nintendo was giving away those connecting cables to the GameCube away at times.
Mm-hmm.
One came with this, one came with my GameCube. So all I needed was one of my friends to bring theirs, two of my friends bring theirs, and we were done.
Yeah, wasn't perfectly easy, but it was more
No, it
doable than the
was
previous.
yes. And the reason why they did that is because if you went into like a house, your character would be on your Game Boy screen inside that house. So the entire party didn't have to go into a house. Good. You had to leave the map together, but
Mm-hmm.
you could explore that map slightly independently to make things faster. And there were various puzzles like, hey, we can't open the drawbridge, for example. There's two houses, two guys go inside, pull open the drawbridge. The other two go over and lock the drawbridge, for example. I don't remember that exact
Yeah.
puzzle, but I'm just saying that's the kind of thing they could have done.
One of the things I did like about this is they tried to incorporate uh, small ways to make you want to work together,
Hmm.
but not, but also pit you against each other slightly.
Yeah. Whoever had the most force gems, which was the currency of that game, won the map.
Mm-hmm.
But
And
there were
plus,
various,
you also voted who was the least helpful and who was the most helpful
yeah.
at the end of the
But there,
dungeon.
but as you each could have a different item, like one guy could have the bombs, one guy had the bow, one guy could have the fire rod, one guy had the boomerang. You could really work together to trap
Mm-hmm.
monsters. So, various bosses had multiple weaknesses, so you each had a different way of fighting them. Or I think there's one boss that was weak to bombs, but then you need to arrow him. So basically, one guy could chuck bombs, the other guy could.
Mm-hmm. They also have dungeons where it was pitch dark, so it was easier. One guy had a lantern to brighten up a larger area for everybody.
And you could play this game solo, but
That was
you were
still a amount of
basically
fun.
it was terrible.
Yeah, the game was literally made for multiplayer.
You basically had the other three links follow you, and you could change the formation like straight line, horizontal line, vertical line in a box shape. It wasn't great. Not terrible. I
I also
have
like how they're
beaten.
smart to give each link their own color so you wouldn't get confused.
Yeah, and honestly, the villain of this game is the only reoccurring villain besides the big bad, and he hasn't been seen since this game. And I'm upset we don't get to see. Well, we get to see him one more time, and I'm upset we don't get to see him ever again after that game.
When was that?
I believe this next game on the list. Yep,
Ah,
the Minish Cap. This is the origin of the Four Swords trilogy.
go figure.
Yep, where the origin of the main villain Vati starts in this game, and he's then in Four Swords and the Four Swords Adventure.
Yeah.
This is the game. This is one of my favorite 2D Zelda games, where the gimmick of this one is you could become tiny.
And your hat's alive.
Yes, he's your never showing up companion. I like Elzo slightly more than Navi, but I definitely see why people don't like Elzo, the talking hat.
Yeah, that green thing's not a bird. Well,
Yeah.
technically it's a bird, but it's your hat.
This is the second game in the Zelda timeline. It's my first game in the timeline.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Did you find that hat or did your hat become possessed?
He finds you.
Okay, so the hat
This
has always been alive. Your hat just didn't get
yeah.
possessed or something
This
like
is the
that.
story of why the hero has a green hat. This is why I think it comes before the first game of the franchise
Yeah.
in the timeline. Because Link hasn't in that game, Link already has his green hat. It's already iconic to him. So I feel like this game is the first in franchise because it's the origin of Link's hat. Which a lot of people think Link's hat is stupid.
Yeah, it keeps his head warm, works for me.
I'm not sure. I don't think it's a great hat. I don't think it's a bad hat. I just think it's iconic. But this one is also made by Capcom. This is the
Huh.
last time Capcom made a Zelda game, and I think it is on par with the Oracle games and better if the Oracle games are separate. So it's either this one or if the Zelda Oracle games are combined, they're better than this one.
All
That's my
right.
opinion.
Yeah, well, all right. Well, let's
It's a
get on
nice
to
short.
my favorite game.
Yes, it's also my favorite game of the franchise, Twilight Princess, which
This,
could also be the darkest game of the franchise.
yeah, um, yeah, I really like Wolf Link.
Yeah, I think this is the best balanced dungeons, the best story, the best helper companion, the best music. Not the best boss fights. There's a few boss fights I do not care for.
Mm. I did like the camera in this 3D Zelda game.
Yeah, they perfected the camera by this point. This is done on the exact same engine as Wind Waker, actually.
Yeah, but at the same time, this felt better for me.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't have bobblehead Link, even though the
Exactly.
camera is the exact same camera.
And
And
you
this
could
game
turn
was
it
a
into a wolf.
yeah,
Yeah.
that part's okay.
Yeah, I know. You would rather prefer turn into a cat.
Yeah,
But you gotta admit, the
but
wolf combat was at least fun too.
it was all right. It felt really shallow to me
Yeah.
because I just used Midna to solve everything.
Yeah, that was your new companion for this one was Midna.
She is the best helper companion in my opinion. She
Mostly because
is
she was less demanding and more snarky.
well, she was also no, she was more demanding, but her for one thing, her character's better, but her reasons for being demanding were part of her snark.
Hmm. I
She
just found
also
it she was more refreshing because she was snarky about it.
she also, while she does interrupt you every now and then to give forced advice, is the least one to do it, in my opinion.
That's probably why I liked her more.
Like Navi would probably do it once every dungeon.
Hmm.
Elza would do it once in every now and then, just for part of the story. Like he just pop up like, "Hey, this guy just said this." Yeah, thank you, Elza. I just read that. Midna would only pop up once every 3 or 4 dungeons. She was a bit chattier though, so her dialogue was longer. But it also is her story, so it feels like she has a reason to be talking.
Yeah.
While it's also Elzo's story, it feels like he's not really contributing to the story. He's just there. He's
This
another example of we have a mechanic where we want Link to shrink. What if we make it his hat that makes him shrink? Good idea. Let's bring the hat to life.
I also liked about this one. It kind of showed a little bit more of Link at home, not out
Mhm.
adventuring.
This is also the oldest Link we've ever played. Like he might be younger than Ocarina of Time's Link when he's aged up, but he's already a teenager. He's already an early adult.
Yeah,
So he's the
because
most
he starts
mature
out
Link.
living in a village and helping at a farm ranch.
Yeah, he helps deal with the goats or the oxen. I forget what it is.
I think it's an ox or a
I
bull of
think it's
some type.
I think it's goat. I think it's goat cheese.
Possibly, but it's the size of a freaking ox.
But yeah, it's fantasy world.
I'm just
But
saying.
he can wrestle a charging big horned livestock animal racing down the village with his bare hands, catch it, throw it to the ground, and go back to your pen. And it listens. This
Just
Link is
shows you
often
how much stronger Goron is.
yeah. This game often, when Link's about to fight, gives him the description of he has the eyes of a beast when he's a human. So this is the Link that's most battle ready.
Hmm. Also,
This
my
Link,
favorite Link, I'll admit.
yeah, is also my favorite Link. This Link looks like the way they designed him. It looks like he can just walk into a room and take everybody out. All the other Links look a little bit on the
Nicer side.
twinkier, twinkier side. Some people would say, which is not a bad thing. I actually like the idea of this skinny guy walking in and beating the crap out of everybody, even though he looks like he's the nicest person you'll ever meet. He's just on the lines of, "Hey, you're doing an evil thing. I'm going to beat you up, beat you senseless." This Link walks into the bar and everyone goes, "I think we'll behave now."
Which is always useful
Also,
sometimes.
this Link can canonically carry the heaviest items. He can wear the iron boots, carry a giant mason chain, and wear armor that's magically discharged, so it's slow to move. And he just walks like the goddamn Terminator towards you.
I think that's why I liked him because he wasn't so slow in the iron boots.
Yeah, he walks fast in the iron boots, but he's still pretty slow in the iron boots. It just looks like, oh crap, it's a moving fortress, and he's mad at us.
I think I also liked the way that things from the other world were viewed, like the
Hmm.
pattern designs and everything like that.
Yep,
I just
the
thought it was like a
spooky,
really pretty game for despite how dark it was.
the haunting music of the other world was so good too. And also, this Link take because it's the same engine as Wind Waker, they have a lot of the same combat system. So this Link is just as fast as the Tiny Toon Link when it comes to some fights.
He's also got a quick draw if you can learn,
Oh yeah, that quick draw is good. He
which
also has the finishing thrust, which is you're on the ground, he jumps up and just stabs you in the heart.
yeah, no more waiting
Considering
for
that
them to get back up. Just take them out where they lie.
Yep. There's so many monsters you can end that way. And also, if you end with a really cool technique, you can do a really cool draw sheath your sword animation. This Link is a stone cold badass.
Yeah.
He may not be the most powerful Link in the franchise, or he doesn't have any magic abilities, but he definitely is the most Batman of the Links.
Yeah, I think what I liked about Link is that a lot of his magic comes from outside sources. It's not technically him.
Yeah, he's not a
He's
sorcerer.
he's just making use of items for the most part.
Yeah.
So let's move on.
This is the sequel to Wind Waker. Not many people played Phantom Hourglass. The gimmick is it's on the 3DS. Rather than steering your boat, you would draw your boat's path on the map.
I forgot this game even existed.
This one's okay. You have two companions. This one, one's a annoying fairy, and the other one's an annoying coward that's lying back next to you. Lineback is a beloved character by the franchise. I don't care.
Look, it could have been worse. It could have been the other guy in the
Yeah,
green suit.
ugh, we'll not talk about that one. Anyway, this one is just all right. It's one I've gone back to once or twice, and I don't really enjoy this one too much. The main gimmick is every time you beat a dungeon, you get more hourglass sand, and you go back to the starting dungeon. You use that hourglass sand to survive a few more seconds, explore deeper into this dungeon, find more things. I like the idea of a central hub dungeon you keep coming back to with better equipment. You can explore more of it. It's just this one's also a stealth dungeon, but it's also a speed dungeon. You can't be in there very long, but you can't kill everything in there, and you don't have many shortcuts with your new items. Just have a slightly easier time. It's not a good way of doing a return to this dungeon
Mhm.
idea. It's just all right. It's
So
another one with the franchise's continuous big bad.
yeah,
The big bad is that shit. The sequel to Phantom Hourglass and Wind Waker, it takes place hundreds of years later. Spirit Tracks, it takes a lot of the same ideas of Phantom Hourglass, improves on it, but it's not amazing.
it also turned Princess Zelda into a ghost.
She's your companion in this game, and honestly, she's probably one of the better companions too, because the central mechanic again is to explore a dungeon that expands on you. The thing is, this one doesn't have time to it. And Zelda can possess those monsters you can't kill. So you have Link and Zelda in those dungeons to solve puzzles.
Yeah, one of them is like a huge dark knight that she can walk across spikes with.
Yep. They ended up liking this idea so much they gave the Phantoms, these Phantom Knights, to Zelda in Smash Brothers.
Oh yeah, they did.
Mm. This one I'd like. Like if I'm going to play the two DS games, it's going to be Spirit Tracks over Phantom Hourglass every time.
I like the idea that they're progressing with their technology too.
Yeah, this is 100 years later. They now have steam trains. I think they're actually magic trains, but
Well, I'm just saying, like they're making trains to travel faster. What powers them is not the
yeah.
important thing at that point, but they're
Every
making
time you
progress rather than just
yeah,
what
every
feels
time you
like it's all every Zelda game is just back to the horse.
the train tracks are magic. Every time you beat a dungeon, you save the spirit of the Locomo, and the train tracks expand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just
This is literally the Zelda game you play on tracks.
yeah, it's just a nice fresh air to have something different. Is all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
There is a slight bug in many versions of this game, though.
Hmm?
In this game, you have a magical instrument, which is a reed flute, which you play by dragging your stylus across the screen while blowing into the 3DS's microphone
Oh God.
to play songs. There's one song that's bugged, so you play it correctly, like you play in the left side, then the center, then back to the left, and to the right, and to the center in the right order. The song doesn't work. The song doesn't work. So in order to do this, you have to swipe across your styles as humanly fast as you can while blowing as much as you can to trick the game into thinking you hit all the notes at once. Yeah, I think they fixed that with later releases of this game, but if you got like day one release of Spirit Tracks, you probably have that bugged version in North
Yeah.
America.
But let's move on.
To my least favorite Zelda game. This is the only Zelda game I would probably describe as bad.
This is my second least favorite.
Like the only reason why I don't describe the first two games as bad is they have the excuse of old age jank. You can see the rust on those two games. This
Yeah.
one had no reason to be this janky.
This is also the first one where Link is right-handed, I believe.
Yes, it's canonically where he's right-handed.
Yeah.
Twilight Princess, if you played the Wii version, it was right-handed, but the canonic version is the GameCube version.
The only reason he was right-handed here is because majority of people playing Zelda games were right-handed,
Yeah,
and this was using the nunchucks for the Wii.
yeah. You also needed this special upgraded Wiimote for higher fidelity controls, which that made this game annoying because not only did you have to swing your arm to slash, you had to swing your arm at the correct angle. So let's just say a monster has a weakness, like a gap in his shield, you have to hit the gap in the shield at the right angle. And if you're slightly off, you just keep hitting the shield. And because it, the registration's not that good, it also has the worst companion. Phi or Phi or however you want to pronounce it, the symbol behind Link, the very visible creature there. Shut up. Just shut up. Master, there is an 80% chance that the treasure is this way. Yeah, I can see the treasure chest in front of me. Master, your Wiimote is dying. Yeah, thanks. I can tell because the controller beeped at me.
Yeah,
And
and
it's
she did
not
not
just
have an
like,
off option.
no, there is no. There might be in the HD remake, but I hate this game so much I have not bought the HD remake. I consider this not as bad as Metroid Other M, if you ever heard me ramble about that, but it really made me think Nintendo couldn't make Nintendo games at the time.
Yeah, this is where things were falling off slightly, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Because I don't know a
world
lot of
the
people
world
that enjoyed this that much.
the world building was okay, but
The
I did not like the Zelda. She's manic pixie dream girl Zelda, where at the start of the game, for a laugh, she shoves you off the island. This is a flying island, million miles and miles above the sky, where the people below have never seen the ground below. It's okay. His magical bird will catch him. Or his magical bird.
oh right, he doesn't have one yet. Shit.
Oh, he has one. It's just the beloved character Groose has kidnapped it. I hate Groose. He's the stereotypical school bully who learns his way and becomes a hero. No, he's a jackass the entire game. He's just slightly less of a jackass.
Yeah, I also meant to say in the previous game, Twilight Princess, Zelda was a
Mm.
badass.
Oh yeah, she was badass. She technically surrendered, but she only surrendered because there was literally nothing she could do. That's wisdom for you, but it doesn't make
Yeah,
her look. This Zelda is one of the worst,
I get what
and
they're
yet
trying to go for because she was more sheltered than the other Zeldas.
yes, yes, but this was the one where they really wanted to push a Link and Zelda relationship, and I'm just standing going like, I can't stand this Zelda. I don't want to rescue her. I'm only doing this for the other parts of the game. And then there's the fetch quests, which I didn't like in this game. Then there's the whole. Was really, really hoping that the central town that you keep coming back to would be cool. No, it was not cool. Also, every time you had to fly in your magic bird, you had to fly for ages. It was basically even worse than the boat from Wind Waker, where not only did you have to go a place, you had to keep your Wiimote pointed at the screen in the direction you wanted to go. So you couldn't even look away, because when you look away from the screen, you'll naturally will look away if you know anything about, real world driving. You have to look where you want to go
Mm,
at all times. When you look away, your hands will drift towards where you're looking.
yeah, not only that, this thing was with the heights and everything like this. I was not going high for that long.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Like, this was definitely a nightmare for you. It was just so annoying. If I like the entire world of this game, it's just everyone who populated it, I wanted to punch in the face.
So let's lead this horror story.
And this is supposed to be the first. Oh yes, this is the one that returned my faith in Zelda. They did a remake slash sequel to Link to the Past with A Link Between Worlds. I don't like this one as much as Link to the Past, but it restored
Yeah, a
my
lot of the
faith.
3DS ones I did not play. So
This one is, if you played Link to the Past, you've got two new mechanics for this one. Mechanic one, you see that dude with Link on that wall there? That ain't graffiti, that's Link. He can turn into a 2D image on a wall, and wow, the puzzles they did with that were really good. Go in cracks, go behind things, go behind a painting, return to being 3D. The painting falls off, and then you get to use the painting as a prop or something
I
like
just
that.
always
Or,
remember this meme image of Link scaring Zelda using that, and then she just
mm,
puts her piano right up against it, and plans to write a song.
yep, yep. I like that. I also like people doodling on Link as a joke, and he comes out and he has the doodle on his face. The other gimmick is there's no dungeon items. Every Zelda game before this, when you beat a dungeon, while exploring the dungeon, you find like the bow, the hook shot, the bomb bag. Nope, none of these dungeons really have that. You know what they have instead? A guy who squats in your house and sells you these items. First of all, he rents them for you for a decent price. But anytime you die, he takes them back. So you have to rent them again. Or after a while, you can just straight up buy them from them. So even when you die, you keep them. I don't know why I ever bought them from him because I found the game so bloody easy. I don't think I ever died once.
Well, there's also the plot twist with the one, this one I don't want to spoil, but I like the idea of the two
Mm,
worlds.
yeah, and it's a nice. Like, almost all the dungeons are exactly the same locations, but the dungeons themselves are different. Except for that damn worm boss from the one Link of the Past we complained about. He's back. He is back with the same mechanic.
Oh boy.
Although I don't think he recovers health when he knocks you down. This one. I think the only reason why he recovered health in the first in Link of the Past is because of the limitation of SNES. That limitation is gone in the 3DS. Thank you very much.
But no, like I said, the plot twist there and the reason why there's two
Mm.
worlds and such, I found that kind of interesting. It's one of the reasons I wanted to pick this up. I just
Uh,
never did.
I really do recommend it. I think it's a fantastic take on the 2D Zelda games. It's not as good, but that could be finally my nostalgia goggles kicking in.
It's possible. But I think
But
that's all that's really needed to be said about this one.
yep,
So we'll go on to.
another multiplayer Zelda game. This time instead of four, let's just try three.
Yeah, this is the weird thing I find with a lot of games. They're going with the 3-player co-op rather than the four.
Mm. This one's all about fashion. You see that red Link wearing a princey-like outfit? That gives him special buffs. There are various outfits, such as a princess dress, a more princely outfit, knight armor, walking around with a sentient bomb.
A cheerleader outfit.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I would have
These all
loved just for a throw, like a sort of Mario and Zelda mashed together like a Hammer Brothers suit.
there was a Hammer Brothers shoot.
Oh yeah, there was.
It buffed your hammers. Basically, if you're wearing the sentient bomb, if you use the bomb items, your bombs are way better. If you're wearing the cheerleader outfit, you boost the team's spirits, which makes them attack faster, I believe. It's been a while since I played this game. This game was intended to be played online.
Mm-hmm.
You find two randos or two friends. You play it online. The three of you run around solving puzzles. One of the things I did like is, hey, we need to get to a higher location. Hey, why'd you pick me up and throw me? Or you can stack all three on top of each other to make a totem. So you could be the guy on top just firing arrows and everything.
Yeah, and despite it being sort of a 2D, there was a height system, so you had to
Yeah.
sometimes pick someone up to have the top guy fire an arrow to hit certain high
This
switches
is
or such.
this just feels like the dev team made the engine for Link Between Worlds and we're sitting around like, now what do we do? What if I put Link on top of each other?
Hey, we could make this into a game.
Now I don't know why they decided four besides the whole Triforce try
Yeah.
thing, but
I'm just saying, it's been a really common thing for a lot of game multiplayer games to go with 3 rather than like 4.
I guess it's just easier to handle sometimes.
That's possible.
Regardless, this is just a good game. I don't think it's amazing, but
But
I had fun when I played it.
oh yeah, it was definitely one of the fun ones.
Yeah, it's goofy Zelda, which
Yeah.
we need. As much as I love serious dark Zelda in Twilight Princess and Majora's Mask and the next one on the list, I do like goofy Zelda. The reason why Minish Cap, Oracle of Ages and Seasons, and Link to the Past are so well regarded for me is their goofy moments are really good to me. In
Yeah.
fact, the goofy moments in Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess are really good to me.
Even Twilight Princess had some goofy moments.
Yeah, I like the claw shot minigame in like that Twilight Princess. That was goofy. Not the whack, not like Warner Brothers wacky. I just mean it was goofy.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go on to the next game. The last one released, Breath
Breath
of
of
the
the
Wild,
Wild. This was
my
actually a very good game.
number three Zelda game. So it goes Twilight
This was
Princess,
open
Majora's
world done
Mask.
right, in my opinion.
Yes, this is. Hey, you remember our original roots for Zelda? You want to go back to that? And they did.
The only thing that feels weird to me is that you're wearing blue instead of green.
They wanted you to stand out more against the terrain,
I know, but I'm just
but
saying that just felt weird to me. After
if
so
you
many
can,
green
yeah,
tunic
I
wearing links.
and they didn't want Link wearing his iconic hat because they worried people found it goofy.
Well, just let him take it on and off. You have like every other hat in the game.
Yeah, there's an armor system. My Link mostly went into wearing a white hood the entire time because I put him in paladin style armor, dyed that white, dyed the hood white, so he's basically a white knight of Hyrule, riding on his magical motorcycle and solving people's problems.
I had him dressed more like a rogue kind of like character with like the leather armor
Yeah.
and the green hood.
Although whenever I got into a serious fight, I made Link strip down to his almost his underpants to wear the barbarian outfit to fight.
And this was also one had the most weapons he could use.
Yeah,
But it's
this
only because you
is
could break them.
this game. It's thanks to Breath of the Wild, much like Ocarina of Time inspired a lot of games. This is why a lot of games became open world recently. Nobody denies it. Sonic Frontiers, clearly inspired by Breath of the Wild. Elden Ring, clearly inspired by Breath of the Wild. The thing is, these people are saying, yeah, we're inspired by this because, oh my god, Breath of the Wild was so good, we need to try our own thing at it. Like the best way of being inspired. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit, how can we innovate off this? Elden Ring. Let's just make it Dark Souls difficult in open world.
And they successfully did that one.
Sonic, what if we put the blue blur in these giant maps and just let people run around like crazy? Oh, and fight giant bosses.
And it made Game of the Year list.
It should have made Game of the Year, in my opinion. But enough about Genshin fucking Impact, which is also inspired by Breath of the Wild, only inspired by the ways of that meme of, I made this. You made this? I made this. Yeah, I don't like Genshin Impact. I have a lot of problems with it.
Hmm.
And one of the things is how they ripped off, not homaged, Breath of the Wild.
The only issue I had with Breath of the Wild is I felt some weapons broke way too easily.
Well, that's description. Like the best weapons, the Royal Guard weapons, are designed to break really fast, and they say that in descriptions. You're not wrong. That does suck. I'm hoping the sequel doesn't have that system, but I would not be surprised if they did. But you know what I would have liked to make up for the system?
What's that?
Blacksmiths.
You know what I would like for that? To see the bar of the weapon instead of waiting until it flashes red to tell me it's about to break.
They wanted a minimalist HUD, which I understand that. But you know what I would have liked? I would have liked a blacksmith where I can go and either check these weapons, get them repaired, or just straight up, I'm sick and tired of looking for this one sword. I just want to get it. Can I
Yeah,
go to a
because I have a ton
blacksmith?
of money and it like
Yeah. By the midpoint of the game, I'm just like bleeding money. I'm like, what do I do with all this stuff? What do I do? So I run around buying arrows, and I end up maxing out on
the
arrows.
other thing
Oh,
I did
I
like
I
it.
have I have one problem with this game.
What's that?
There's a weapon called the Ancient Arrow, which is supposed to be able to kill anything in one shot if you charge up the arrow and hit the weak spot. I can't do that. I hit the weak spot. I get the weak spot sound. It just does decent damage.
Mm,
I wait for the arrow to be fully charged. It doesn't kill. Like, I think, what am I doing wrong? Everyone says it's the easiest thing in the world. I'm like, how am I fucking this up?
I
So
don't
I
know.
just
I
stuck.
mostly just used the parry system to take out.
Yeah, this is the only game where I think Link is born with magic because if he dodges right, he slows down time, and it's so fucking awesome. And that,
Yeah.
like, you get abilities based off other champions. Like, one can summon lightning, one can heal you from death, one gives you an energy shield, one lets you just straight up super jump. And if you got Links, it would have been the slow down time. It's so good.
I
Like
just
this,
really liked the outfits.
yeah,
The weapon designs were fine because you had like single one-handed weapons, two-handed
you have
weapons.
various types of one-handed and two-handed weapons. You can run around with a giant hammer or giant lance or giant
And if
two-handed
you were in the
great
middle of
sword
a lightning storm and you were wearing a metal sword, you were getting electrocuted.
or a metal shield. The shields
Yeah,
also count
I
for
forgot
that.
about the shield also did that. So
Oh,
there's some
also,
elemental plays in this.
also the bows counter for that too. So you had to,
Hmm.
you were if it started thunder and lightning, you had to equip wooden sword, wooden shield, and wooden bow, and hope to God you don't need to use your fire arrows because the white rain would put out your fire arrows.
It
My favorite
also
thing
had
about
the
this,
fact that if you brought your wooden weapons into the volcano, they lit on fire.
yeah, one of my favorite things is just how Link is basically showing up Spider-Man just by climbing up things. Like I had to get bitten by a random spider to do that. That guy is just
I also liked the. I liked and disliked the food system for cooking.
Yeah, it was
It
not.
the thing I didn't like about it was some of the inconsistency with some of the foods because you had to wait for like the red moon to get the best out of the food.
Yeah, then they don't even say that. This
Yeah,
game returns to the roots of we're not going to tell the player pretty much anything. The thing is, when Breath of the Wild first came out, the community around it started just sharing information with each other. Like, okay, so if you're inside a shrine, the blood moon gets canceled. So you can like go in, wait for the exact minute the blood moon's supposed to activate, leave, and nothing's revived. You can just keep doing that forever and just avoid having to refight things.
yeah, and the big one was that certain when you're cooking, if you cook it during the red moon,
Hmm.
it could have added benefits. Like I had some food that gave me like 18 um false hearts.
Yeah, I've had some that gave me 18 minutes of triple attack power.
Now that's fine and all, but I just don't feel that's because then you're always waiting for the full moon before you decide to cook anything.
Would you have been okay if it was like rather than the full moon, only certain pots could do that?
I would have felt more like it's really rare ingredients that only appear during
Okay,
the full moon that you have to collect.
you just wanted the ingredients, so you just got the ingredients during the full moon. It's any time it
Yeah,
works.
but they're like really super rare, and you have to be at that spot to pick them,
I'm fine with it. I would have preferred it was like magic pots did it more than
or something more consistent than because
yeah,
I don't think that
something
was
more.
always guaranteed either. I think that was been a lucky shot if I remember right. I
I
could
think
be
it
wrong.
is. I think it is guaranteed, but the timing may have been awkward for you,
Yeah, but
which
something like that I
always.
just didn't agree with. But at the same
But
time,
I'm just gonna say this. This is the Zelda game I have died the most in since I was a child and didn't know how to play video games.
I yeah, but then again, I also give it credit because you could just eat the individual fruit to gain like half a heart, and if you just collected them like crazy, you'd have like a
Oh no, no. I am not saying there were not points where I was running for my life with like holding like 40 apples and just
so.
it reminds me of one of my favorite jokes, a comic from Skyrim. And then the Dovahkiin ate several wheels of cheese.
Yeah.
Uh,
This actually feels like it might have been slightly inspired by Skyrim.
this is definitely Nintendo looked around at other games in the world in the environment, Skyrim, Dark Souls, and went, "This reminds us of something. What if we?" Yeah. So this is definitely a culmination. And I remember when people were complaining that Breath of the Wild ripped off Dark Souls, and From Software's response to that is, "Oh my God, Nintendo Senpai noticed us."
Because like I said, besides the weapons breaking, I love the variety of weapons. I just felt some of them broke way too easily compared for because they're meant for combat, mind you.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like a wooden spear made by the goblins, I could understand breaking easily
Yep.
because it's basically a stick with a rock at the end of it.
Yep.
Like the wooden weapons, okay, they're
Yeah.
basically branches and stuff like that. I can understand them breaking really easily.
Yeah.
But
My problems were along the lines of like the Goron hammers,
mhm.
them breaking off. I'm like, I'm hitting soft, squishy things, not raw. These are mining weapons.
Or say a knight sword. Like it may
Mhm.
tell you that in the description, but I don't think it should break that easily
I
unless
mean,
you're
I understand the bow's string breaking or coming undone, but the entire bow shattering, I'm like how much pressure were you putting that under?
several thousand pounds.
Considering the distance you can get on some of those shots, that does not surprise me.
But I will say this: the one thing I do love about this, and I'll never be able to pull them off as well myself, is
Mm,
watching some people use your
slow down
Sheikah
time.
plate and
Oh
just
yeah.
use that great effect of traveling. Where some of the trick shots I've seen some people do.
I love the shield bounce off some enemies' heads where you just like rocket yourself forward.
Oh my god! I said yeah one video where a guy was on a platform, instead of flying,
Yep.
shot a monster, instead of flying the other way, somehow got sent another way, and all just so he killed a sheep with a headshot through the air.
Yep.
I'm like that that's amazing, but that's a terrible way to hunt.
So the next game is Tears of the Kingdom is a sequel to Breath of the Wild, and I don't want to spoil it. I only just hope that the bike transfers from Breath of the Wild
Oh, I still
because
gotta
you,
get that because I stopped because it was like the one dungeon in the air. I was like, I am going to not like you.
yeah. I like that dungeon. It's probably my favorite, but I can see why it's one you don't
That
like.
started trying to do the sword trials.
Oh god, I've never finished the Sword Trials. That I really need to get around to
I at
doing
least want to
before.
do like one or two, like a couple of them in there, at least try and power up my sword a little bit.
I'm on the last one, and I just can't go through all those floors. I'm just terrible at it. I am
Because
not
I
ashamed to
started
admit that.
trying to cheat some of them by climbing up on a house and just throw bombs at them.
Hmm.
Are they random or are they constant?
They're constant.
Okay.
You can plan around them. I just don't have the patience to do that.
No, I was just curious because when I go back eventually after I play Fire Emblem, I may go back and try that at
Mhm.
work.
I'm probably going to end up doing that a lot when we actually get the date of Tears of the Kingdom,
Yeah.
because that won't burn me up from Tears of the Kingdom.
All right, let's move on.
Let's talk about the super, super important spin off game, Link's Crossbow Training.
Yeah, you could use the Wiimote to shoot bow and arrow, a bunch of mini games. Moving on.
It came with a plastic case for the Wiimote Zapper. I only wanted to include this for one simple reason. This is all that remains of the ill-fated sequel to Twilight Princess. We almost got a sequel to Twilight Princess Soul,
Mm.
which, as it's our favorite Zelda game, gimme, 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 gimme.
Did this also introduce Linkle?
No,
Okay.
that's next.
Okay.
She was introducing one of the expansions of Hyrule Warriors. You ever heard of Dynasty Warriors?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like that
that's
game.
just it's just Dynasty Warriors with Zelda characters. This is in a long running trend of Dynasty Warriors like, hey, what if we take our Dynasty Warriors style and grab another game franchise?
I will say this: at least it had the other characters doing more than asking you for help.
Yes, this is everyone's a badass in this one.
I mean, I understand Link is the main hero. He's the one with the
Yes,
Evil's Bane sword, the Master Sword, and all that.
he's the one with courage and the ability to stand up against the dark. But sometimes it's nice to have someone back him up.
You know, like an army to help get him to where he has to be.
Granted, some of that army seems like they eat paint chips.
I just,
All right, men, before we go into battle, everyone eat this entire bucket of paint.
yeah, but at the same time, at least it was something to say.
Yes,
Oh, there's an army backing him up, so he can get to the main villain without tiring himself out.
I'm just saying the thought counts. It's just,
Yeah.
maybe cut back on the paint chips today, guys.
And after that, we had
Breath of
the
the Wild got a non-canon prequel. So everything in this game is not going to be part of Tears of the Kingdom. It's more of a lines of, but what if
it is
we
actually a
stop?
fun game. I will say that.
I couldn't get into it because the three characters at the start of the game handled like butt to me.
My only biggest problem with that is to unlock some of the areas you need to for upgrades, you have to collect certain items. It got a little tedious on that end.
Mm. Overall, though, I like the idea of it.
Hmm.
It's just this is the only Zelda game, besides a handful of other spin-offs that shall not be mentioned, that I have never really played much of.
I mean, like Breath of the Wild gave each character their individual characteristics. They stuck to those, but
Hmm.
gave them more developing in their time period per se. I know this is
Yeah,
not canon, but if it was before, this is technically set up before Breath of
yeah.
the Wild. And if this was canon, it was actually pretty solid in my opinion.
I'm not saying it couldn't been. It's just a lot of people think that this is canon and it's going to take part in, but it isn't.
I don't know. I've seen worse storylines.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying not to enjoy it. I'm just saying don't expect revelations in this to be in Tears of the Kingdom.
Hmm.
They might be referenced, but as this is one, not a
Yeah.
game made by Nintendo, and two, a alternate timeline, don't expect too much.
Now, just about, I won't say majority of the Zelda games,
Hmm.
in one form or the other, deal with this thing, the
This is
Triforce.
yep. This is what everyone's usually fighting over. This MacGuffin left by the three creator goddesses. If you touch these triangles, your heart's desire is granted. There is literally no limit onto what this thing can do.
In some games, there was, however, a slight clause in the contract.
Yes, you needed to be a balanced individual. If you teeter too what strongly in like anger, vengeance, misery,
Power hungry.
the item splits into its three base components: wisdom, courage, power. Link is associated with courage, so every time this splits, the three pieces go off to the greatest source of that part they represent. So courage always finds its way to Link. Sometimes the Triforce stays split for generations, and it just goes from one Link to another. Every Link is not the same person, but I view them as like the Avatar from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Mm-hmm.
Their spirit is literally reincarnated over and over again. And then Nintendo said basically the same thing, so I'm like, okay, that part of your timeline I agree with.
Wisdom usually finds its way to Zelda.
Hmm.
There's a whole thing with that of her being a reincarnated princess, or not princess,
And a
goddess.
reincarnated character. The thing is, there's also a canonical reason why there's a Zelda every single time. In Link's Adventure, we found out that the very first Zelda got poisoned into a endless sleep where she will never age. So in honor of that, every king will name their daughter Zelda in honor of the very first Zelda. So at one point there are two Zeldas.
Mm-hmm.
One's in a coma, one's not. And at one point you wake up coma Zeldas, so there are two woken Zeldas.
And then power usually finds its way to.
The main antagonists of the
Mm,
franchise,
we'll talk about him in a
Ganondorf.
minute.
Yep. So this is the Sacred Realm. This is where the Triforce was stored, and the royal family of Hyrule was tasked with protecting the Sacred Realm.
Pretty barren for a Sacred Realm. I always pictured a lot more.
I think it's supposed to be just an artistic rendition. This is from the manual of Link to the Past. I just found this beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful. I'm just saying it's still kind of barren.
Yeah, no, well,
But then again, I guess no one really comes to the sacred land because no one's really supposed to be there. So I guess it
yeah.
kind of makes sense.
No one's gonna set up a Tim Hortons here for you to have coffee and look at the Triforce.
It's like I can reach out and touch it.
Please, sir, this is a Tim Hortons. You're only here for donuts and coffee. Sit back down.
So yeah,
This this is Link from the very first game. This is all the crap he picks up. A magic sword, a magic shield, a boomerang, a ladder, a raft, bows and arrows, magic bracelet, keys burning his neck.
and this is
This,
light travel for him.
yes, it's so heavy he had to lose his pants. Now, tunics often were worn like that, although I prefer when Link wears spats underneath his tunics just for
Yeah,
sake of that's a stiff breeze will not leave much to the imagination.
I mean they
But
always said Link had like the pouch of infinite holding. If
yeah,
anybody knows what that
all right,
is.
he also has several bottles, bombs, a flute on him. Just was the flute.
Yeah, because
Look,
one bad fall, that flute's getting broken.
Link is a walking arsenal. Some games he can hold like 20 items. And
Yeah, so he's
they're
got a bag
like,
of holding.
yep, he's got a bag of holding. And you're wondering, why the heck is he carrying a ladder? He puts it down over pits that he can't jump over and just walks across and then picks the ladder back up. He's in, if you can't make the jump, just walk around.
Yeah, sometimes the
why,
simplest
why,
answer is the right one.
why a raft? Well, like many games back in the day, you either can swim infinitely or you can't swim. So he just gets in the raft and just sails to safety.
The only problem with that is there's no paddle or anything, so he's got to try and do that with his hands.
Yeah. But considering he's able to carry all that, I'm pretty sure the guy has enough upper body strength to do
Yeah,
that.
he's also got a key, and I guess that's supposed to be like a map or notebook he's got in his little.
Yes, that's the book. I think it's called the Bible in the first game, but then they renamed it to something else.
Good move.
Yeah,
So, but
yeah. But this is
generally
the
every
very
Link
first.
is somewhat of a walking arsenal.
Yeah,
I mean, the most common weapons he's get is the sword,
the
which
shield.
eventually get the Master Sword replacement.
Yeah, wasn't
Shield,
always called
boomerang is
bow.
usually pretty common too.
Pretty common. Bow's the probably next common item. Bombs are also super common.
Yeah,
I don't think there's
bottles are
any game where
really
you can get.
common as well.
Yeah, that's where he puts magic potions for
Um,
recovering.
we lost the raft and the ladder.
Yeah, they've never really come back. They've been
Yeah,
referenced several times, but you never like to keep a raft in
staves
your
are
backpack.
medium because I know they've got a
Yep.
few games and they've been cut out of a lot of games.
Hook shots / grappling hooks are pretty common too.
Yeah, especially with the 3D games.
Yep. Um, and it's
Flutes
pretty
or
much
whistles are
pretty common too.
yeah, or ocarina, which
Some
same thing.
some musical instrument,
Yeah,
but overall, yeah. One reasons why I think Link is a reincarnation is he's just able to pick this stuff up and be instantly good with it.
hmm he's also had a couple of different hair colors.
Yep.
He's most
I
commonly a blonde.
I prefer when he's a brunette,
Yeah,
or
he's also
the rare times she's a pink hair.
He's also been a rabbit.
Yes. One time they Link is one of those characters that people often get the gender wrong. And at one point, he had pink hair, and I think it was a Spanish magazine thought that meant, oh, hey, Link's a redheaded woman this time. I'd be down for that. I
Yeah.
don't really care about Link's gender. Like a lot of
So
people also consider Link a harem protagonist, but it depends more on the game.
yeah, but
But overall, he is a hero.
mhm. So then we have Zelda.
This is the Zelda from the Oracle games,
I forgot she was
which
in those.
she's only in it if you do the cross, the Link
Ah, okay, that explains
games.
it.
Yeah, and she is usually a powerful sorceress. Not always.
She's also an excellent archer and a fencer.
Yep. Not always a fencer, not always an archer. She doesn't always seem to carry abilities from Zelda to Zelda, but usually, if she's going to, do something in the front lines, she is good with magic, which I like the idea of the Sword Knight Protector and the powerful princess who can just whoop with magic.
Yeah,
She doesn't get to do it enough in games, but there are many games where she is totally capable of defending herself against the average threat. It's just what you are fighting ain't average.
yeah. Like I said, I liked it in the Dynasty Warrior like games that she
Mhm.
was a bit more combat oriented.
Yep. I'm not saying every Zelda needs to be. I like how each Zelda is their own character, very different.
Mm-hmm.
And usually she is either blonde, strawberry blonde, or a few times brunette.
I like the brunette from Twilight,
Yes,
but
but most are blonde.
yeah.
Like when I think Link, I usually think brunette. When I think Zelda, blonde comes first to my head.
See, the weird thing is, I'm reversed with that.
Mhm. It's just my least favorite Link is a blonde. So
Yeah, true enough. So then we have,
this mysterious young man.
hmm,
This There are
eh,
ninjas in the Zelda franchise. And this is one. His name is Sheik.
also
For
named
some
after his
people,
race.
me saying his name will send them into a tizzy.
I just laugh.
That, that is a guy, regardless of what anyone says, whatever the reason. That is a guy. That is Zelda disguised as a male Sheik.
Mm-hmm.
Ergo, that is a guy.
That's an excellent
Reg-
disguise. I'll say that much.
Regardless of if Zelda has magically turned themselves into a guy, which is what I think actually has happened, because Sheik is a lot buffer than Zelda, I
Either
think.
that or that's one hell of a magical suit.
Yeah,
Because that's
yeah.
hiding some decent curves. That's all I'm saying.
And also is making Zelda look a lot buffer than how they look in Ocarina of Time.
Also, she's got a tan on that.
Yeah, so I definitely think this is a full body transformation.
The only thing I don't
So
understand why she didn't do is try and change her hair color.
maybe that wasn't a possibility of that magic. Maybe that's the one limitation of this magic.
Kind of a weird limitation, but I'll take it.
I've seen weirder.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
overall, like, it's one of
yeah,
those things that make me think it's like a magical suit or something.
yeah. So what gender do you give Sheik?
I usually say he,
Mhm.
but like I'm saying,
There's
like, eh,
there's a large part of the internet and even parts of Nintendo that says it's always a she.
I mean, even if it whatever it is, she's still clearly trying to disguise as a he.
Yeah.
So
So
for say even just to say the disguise,
yeah, he. It just works better in my opinion.
but in
Sheik
my
has
head,
been
canon, it was
and
always just some sort of magical getup that did that because the limitations are a little too weird to me.
well for me, I literally had just discovered Ranma 1/2 when I found out this thing happened.
Ah,
So my brain has this linked with Ranma's gender transformations. Only Zelda actually changes pronouns when changing.
oh Christ! Now we're getting that crossover.
I'd watch it.
I would.
But yeah, Sheik was so beloved in Ocarina of Time, they have become their own character in various games. They originally were in Super Smash Bros. Melee. You could switch between Zelda and Sheik, and after that, like, let's just make them two separate characters.
Yeah, works for me. I think
And
that was also she was also in canon was based off another Sheikah that
that's
actually
in the manga.
existed.
That's in the manga.
Okay, so that's where I probably heard that from.
Yeah, the mangas aren't canon, but the mangas are really good reads. Regardless, Sheik is also available in the first Dynasty Warriors game, Hyros Warriors games, and you can have Sheik and Zelda on the field at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I guess ninja duplication.
Moving along,
Here's the series antagonists.
my favorite version of him.
Yeah, mine too. This is Ganondorf. the king of thieves, the king of darkness, the most powerful sorcerer, and a damn good swordsman. He's basically as good as a swordsman as Link is, and as good or a better sorcerer than Zelda is.
Yeah,
He embodies power. He embodies greed. He embodies darkness. He embodies bloody revenge.
literally.
Yeah, if
There's a whole story about that, folks. We're not going to get into that.
in actuality, in my opinion, if Smash Brothers was canon, Ganondorf would be the single strongest character in the franchise.
Except for Master Hand.
No, I think he would just grab Master Hand and rip it apart.
And just for reference, that yellow thing in the centerpiece, that's where he was stabbed by that sword he's holding currently.
Yeah, he kept the sword they failed execution him with. That's why he's like. I love the line. He's being executed. The Triforce of Power comes to him in a divine prank, and with his rage, he kills his executioner. And they're just like, let's throw him into a prison that's torment of hell. Yeah, let's do that instead of executing him. Do
To be fair, when your options are limited,
you think that'll bite us in the ass? No, it won't. He
well,
becomes
it
so
was
powerful.
either
He
that or
becomes
leave him where he is.
And then he becomes so powerful that he takes over that realm by becoming a god. And then people complain that he hijacked that story. No, they pretty much hinted again for a while. Speaking of Ganon, this is Ganondorf when he loses all rationality usually and just becomes a beast referred to as Ganon. There's a difference between Ganondorf and Ganon. Not much.
I always get those two backwards for some reason.
A lot of people do. But
I think
Ganon,
I think it's the dwarf part. It's like it feels weird.
I don't get it mixed up because I feel a beast would spend less time with a name.
Fair.
But yeah, it's usually some sort of pig because greedy pig.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're gonna go with our species on Hyrule, the races. These are the Hylians. These are the pointy-eared elf-like people. That's basically whenever someone says, "Look, an elf," I'm like, "No, elves are short. That's a Hylian when they're tall." So Legolas is a Hylian in my opinion. He's not an elf. He's
They're
too tall to be an elf.
generally, for the most part, human except for their ears. Really.
Yeah, they're here, and they might have more magic. The ears are supposed to let them hear the gods. They are the servants of the gods. They're usually the entire Aurora family is always Hylians. But what confuses people is next slide, please. Humans are a thing in this world.
Yeah.
They're the thing is humans are also used to describe Hylians sometimes, but you can tell they're human because they have rounder human-like
And it's
ears.
not like there's a what a lot of games would do is there's a split between the two races. No, they like each other just fine.
Yeah,
They're
it's
not
not
at
like
war
most.
with each other. They don't see one each other lesser than the other.
No, it's not
Which,
like most fantasy worlds
yeah,
where the elves are physically very different or very culturally different. No, they live in the same kingdom. They're the same people. It's just humans don't have the pointy ears, and it's not even like discrimination. It's more along the lines of they don't even notice.
I mean, to be fair, with the way they describe the Hylians, with hearing the gods and possibly be more magic inclined, you think they'd be the suppressors or the higher born or something like that.
I mean, they are the royal family, but that seems to be about it.
Yeah, even then they treat the humans as normal people. There's
Yeah,
no prejudice
they
between the two.
in some games there are no humans. In some games, the only Hylians you ever see are Link and Zelda.
And again,
That
it's not like there's any mistreatment between them. They see a kid with pointy ears. Oh, it's just a kid with pointy ears. Eh.
Yeah, exactly. They don't even mention it. Now, this is probably actually due to Nintendo's light storytelling and more world building style of writing. Definitely can see a game that was more story based doing that, but I'm kind of glad it doesn't because I'm kind of tired of that story.
Yeah, I
I,
mean, if it was maybe like a small side quest in the game and it never came up again, I
mm,
could say fine, okay, I could see it happening,
yeah,
but it's not the main focus and it doesn't have anything to do with the game. So,
mhm,
but I just think it's a nice fresh breath air to point that out because
yeah,
it's
yeah. It's
so.
on to the next species. Again, very human like. These are the Shika,
Now they do generally have pointy ears like the Hylians, so it's easily get them confused.
but they always have red eyes.
Red eyes,
Hence,
and a lot of them I've seen, not all of them, but a lot have white hair.
yes, most have white hair. Many of them live extremely long lives too. These are the ninjas of the world, and they're also the servants of the royal family.
Mm-hmm.
They are the dark ones. They will do what needs to be done to establish peace, to maintain the royal family's control. Several dark dungeons are tied to them, but they're basically evil for good reasons. So the path to hell paved with good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're very mystical, but lately they're tied more to technology, being hyper advanced, building giant robots to assist the royal family until the royal family gets along the lines of, no, no more tech.
What, you mean we can't build Mecha Godzilla? God damn it.
No. So go to the next one.
1 second.
The Sheikah are so dedicated to the royal family and their goddess, Hylia, which is not one of the three creator goddesses, that they perform self mummification. So, you know what that is. For those that don't know, it's basically meditating until you die, in a sense. And they are so dedicated, even in this mummified state, they can still assist the hero of Hyrule. This is Monk Master Kyoza. He was so powerful of a monk that you fight him as a bonus boss in Breath of the Wild. While
Nice.
he's like that. Now, unfortunately, in the story, when the royal family said no more technology, some Sheikah didn't like that. They felt they were betrayed, so they split off to form the Yiga tribe. This is Master Koga, the leader of the Yiga tribe. They serve Ganondorf because, well, if the royal family's going to be mean to us, we might as well serve the guy who wants to destroy them. Not really realizing some versions of Ganondorf slash Ganon kind of just want to destroy everything.
Yeah.
These ones use some of the tech, but mostly more of the mystic ninja powers, and Koga himself is a joke. His joke is he's a fat, lazy leader who's incompetent.
Yeah, kind of tired of that trope for some of these things.
Yeah, there's a more epic version of it in the Calamity spin-off game, but I didn't see it.
No, no, there's not. It's his
Uh,
assistant.
oh, okay. I thought that was like his past version or something like that.
No, he's still the same. He's just got like this workable assistant that does mostly everything.
I see.
Yeah.
He also pulls up Spaceballs reference when you fight him.
I thought that sounded familiar.
That giant ball he summons behind him was a technique taught to him by his brother's uncle's mother's roommate, or something like that. The next species we deal with most are the Gerdu, or the Jurdu, or the
Gerudo.
Gerudo. I prefer Gerudo. This is Ganondorf's people. The thing about them is they're an Amazon species.
Yeah, that raises
Every
a lot of questions.
every 100 years they have one boy. He become king.
Other than
When
him,
yeah,
all
and
female.
that's why Ganondorf has an army because he was born boy in a tribe that instantly made him king. So when he decided to go power mad, gotta follow the king.
And for all of those thinking about how this works, relatively think Wonder Woman and the island of Amazon, how they get their kids. It's pretty much the same concept.
Actually, they don't get kids on that island, to my understanding.
Oh yes, they do.
Oh, well, and the way I understand the concept is they go out, meet other villagers, meet men, have a kid with them, come back and bring the daughter home. I think they're only capable of having daughters.
That's one version.
Well, that's the version of Breath of the Wild I know the best. The other version,
Oh, I
it's
meant Wonder Woman.
probably
My mistake. I was.
oh, sorry. Uh, I
I
I
meant
thought
pretty
in
much
Wonder Woman
going outside the tribe for mates.
I thought in Wonder Woman they just never left the island and made their children out of clay.
That's how Wonder Woman was made. The rest of the island, pillaging, plundering, relatively.
Yeah, yeah, that's another version. We never actually. The nicer version is they go out and romance. It's pretty obvious back in the day when they were thieves, and they took what they needed.
Yeah,
They're a very interesting tribe. Sometimes they're wiped off the face of the map because of helping Ganondorf. Yeah, there's a slight undertone of prejudice towards them in Twilight Princess. It's believed the reason why you don't see any of them in Twilight Princess is because the royal family just massacred them.
yeah, might have been an overreaction.
Considering the royal family has magic, an army of ninjas, the loyalty of rock people, the loyalty of fish people. without Ganondorf's intense, supercharged magic to protect them, I don't like their odds.
Yeah, but don't get us wrong, they're still incredible warriors.
Yes, they are tough, and I like that about them. In fact, in some games, they're immortal.
Yeah, they're
You
also
can,
really one of the few races that give Link a run for his money just sword wise.
yep. In several games where you have to sneak by them stealth-wise, you can shoot an arrow to the back of their head, and they get back up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to make the stealth more difficult, but honestly, if you took that at face value, they're about as immortal as Tails is in the first Sonic game season. Death is but a slight inconvenience.
Maybe Death just doesn't want them.
I've got enough right now.
So moving on, we have the Gorons.
These are the rock people.
I love these guys too.
Yep. These are also probably another monogendered species. They all use male pronouns. We've never bumped into a single Goron that uses female pronouns.
I'm trying to think if
In
we did. I don't remember. I
No,
think you're right.
there's a one Goron in like the Gerdu village, and he's confused why she's allowed in because no men are allowed in, which makes me think either the Gerdu consider them all one gender, or there is only one gender for Gorons, and because the Gorons aren't men, technically, they don't mind them.
Huh.
Mm. And yes, they can grow facial hair. Sometimes the facial hair appears to be fuzz fair hair, and sometimes it appears to be rock hair.
I like the rock hair.
I like the rock hair.
They
Also, they eat rocks.
they also do my one favorite ability.
Rolling around at the speed of
And
sound.
their legendary hero versions, especially in Majora's Mask, if he has magical power, can grow metal spikes as he's spinning.
Yep, he
It's
does a proper spin dash.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's fun. It was my favorite way to get around. I never used Epon in Majora's
yeah.
Mask.
These are the designs they use for Phantom Hourglass, and I actually kind of like the designs of you see the baby Gorons and you see the daddy Gorons.
Yeah, the only real difference between a young one and a big one is pretty much the muscle mass.
Yep. And because they eat rocks, they are known for mining rocks basically with their bare hands.
Yeah.
They're also picky eaters. They only like rocks from certain locations, which makes me think they're only actually after a certain mineral. Like they eat rocks, but maybe they're only after zinc
This is
or
deal.
nickel.
Let's give it to the royal family as a present. Here's
Yeah.
all this metal we mine. We don't eat it.
This stuff tastes terrible. Why do you want this? We don't eat it.
What?
Oh, okay. Whatever. Hey,
Weirdos.
what's this stuff, squishy stuff you're always putting in your mouth? That's what we eat. Fine.
Weirdos.
They're also a very honorable tribe. If you do something nice for them, the entire tribe ends up loving you.
Yeah. They're
And I
generally nice
appreciate that.
people.
They're usually led by a chieftain or a patriarch, and you want the Gorons on your side.
Yeah, and that symbol on their arms is a symbol for a Goron colony. They'll see it on
Mhm.
flags or
Yeah, that's
houses
the
or
yeah. They were
so.
introduced in Ocarina of Time, but much like the Gerudo and the Sheikah, Ocarina of Time introduced a lot of the world building.
Yeah. So we'll go on to another tribe.
The Zora, and this is their Ocarina of Time design. They're fish people. These
Yeah.
weren't introduced in Ocarina of Time, but friendly Zoras were. These are, like I said, they're fish people. They're usually associated with the cleanliness of water and ice dungeons and water dungeons. And a lot of people don't like them because of their association with water dungeons. Most people hate water dungeons.
Yeah, they're generally nice people. They got a decent kingdom, and
Yeah,
I like
they're
their
usually
fin blades.
yeah they're also led by a monarchy, either a king or a queen or both. Most games, you either meet the king or the queen because the other one died.
Yeah,
Or in one game, you meet both the king and queen died, and you only meet the queen's ghost.
one way to go about it.
So you want to talk about glow ups though? That's what Zoras looked like in Link to the Past. These
Yeah,
were these were only enemies. They'd pop out of their heads in the water and spit at you.
except for the really big one that gave you items.
Yeah, he sold you flippers for stupid money. In some games, you have both. So these are referred to as River Zoras, and the other ones are referred to as Sea Zoras or just Zoras. These are just brutes, monsters, mindless killers. Generally, except for the handful that sells them. However, in Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds, they decided to reuse these designs for good Zoras. It can really confuse me.
I always kind of consider just a divergence evolution of where they were.
That's
or
why I
how they
like being
decide to
called.
interact with things.
That's why I kind of like the idea of saltwater and freshwater Zoras being different.
But speaking of enemies and allies,
Allies, these are the Dekus. That's right. These little guys are about to eat All Might's hair. Now, these are wood people. They're usually lines of I think sentient chestnuts.
or something, some sort of animal or woodland or wood
Yeah,
spirit.
they are usually conferred just said to be made of wood. So I think they're just living trees.
Yeah, they usually spit seeds at you though.
God, that hurts. They're usually merchants, uh, spies. But they're also very small seen
They
games. They're
also
usually
have
just
this weird ability to go into a flower and jump really high.
some of them do, not all of them do. Only ones with magic.
Yeah,
But overall, they're not too oftenly seen. They're the least frequent of the species we're showing here, but
they're
kind
usually
of
the more skittish ones, so I like them for that.
I
Something
like that
different.
about them. Yeah, it takes because Ling is often associated with the woods. You'd think you'd see them more, but you don't.
I mean, they're easy to find when you know where to look, but
I,
they
I
try to
do
avoid
like
you.
the noise they made in the N64 games. Beep, boop, boop. They're kind of
Hmm.
cute like that. And they also, in some games, have a king.
Yeah, they're kind of back and forth on if they have a monarchy or not.
Yeah, honestly, they could do more with them.
Yeah. Now
Here we have
this,
is a Rito. Ritos are confusing because according to the Zelda timeline, they evolved from Zora. They are bird people. Except for in one game where they're both Rito and Zora, and they do not even remotely hint that they share an ancestry.
I'd rather they
It's,
didn't because I don't like the reason why
I,
they did.
this is my favorite Rito. This is Cass, the wandering bard.
Hmm.
In Breath of the Wild, you can hear him from miles away, playing his accordion. Which, I'm sorry, people, the accordion is a fantastic instrument. If you do not like the accordion, I don't like you.
He's also very cheerful and friendly.
Yeah, he gives advice for quests. He just is happy to see you. He is on a eternal quest to fulfill his late mentor's desires. You can fulfill that desire for him, which lets him go home to be with his 6 daughters. Yeah, um, birds.
Also, Polly want a cracker?
Yes, not all Rito look like parrots. I just like how they look like various types of birds. He's clearly a parrot because he's a musician. I like that whole idea. And I especially love when you do get him to go home, he immediately starts teaching his daughters how to play music and sing songs.
Aw.
Like as soon as he gets home, he's like, "Shit, I have been a bad dad. I am spending all my children's waking hours with them." And there we have the Sword of Evil's Bane, the Master Sword, laid to rest in the sacred grove. Yeah, you end up usually having to find the sword through an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually either your ultimate or semi-ultimate weapon. But story-wise, it is the strongest weapon because it repels evil, like all evil,
Yeah.
like evil curses. Sword repels it.
It's basically the sort of goodness, essentially.
Yeah, it's the ultimate force for good. Which why in Tears of the Kingdom people are making a big deal of it being broken.
And whatever's going on with Link's arm.
Yeah, we'll find out. But overall, the Zelda games, there's only 3 in the main pantheon of timelines that I think people should avoid. And I know people who like Skyward Sword. So if you like Skyward Sword, please continue to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm just never going to recommend it to anybody.
I would recommend it to people only if they were really into the Wii remote. Like they loved everything, the motion controls and everything like that. That might be the Zelda game for them.
I did. I hated it.
I said maybe. I didn't say all of them, but I'm just
Yes.
saying.
Yes.
Because you never know, they may like it, they may hate it, but at the same
No.
time, you can say that about any
Yeah.
game.
I do think people should make up their own opinions, but when you ask for my opinion, you're gonna get my opinion.
Yeah, no, I would simply agree with it. I'm simply saying if I know somebody that really likes certain games
Like
for the Wii and it falls along that line, why wouldn't you recommend it?
I would recommend the first 2 Zelda games over it, but I will heavily preface their age.
Yeah, I would. The first game, the first one I would always recommend is Twilight Princess for me.
I would look at more of your general skill and or what you prefer in terms of, are you someone who still doesn't like 3D? Yeah, stick to Link to the Past.
Fair.
If you like 3D, I would recommend, depending on what kind of ease you want. If you want a really easy game, I recommend Ocarina of Time.
Fair.
If you want a more story-driven game, Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
If you want to be depressed, Majora's Mask.
Or you just want to be horrified by a giant moon.
And if you want to just get lost in the wilderness, Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild would have been my second choice.
Yeah, as much as I like Majora's Mask, I recommend Breath of the Wild over it more often because most people seem to enjoy it more than Majora's Mask.
So,
Majora's Mask is just a cult classic. But
so as a whole, not counting the
yeah,
storyline
I
from Hell,
this
if you,
is one of my favorite franchises. It's up there with Mega Man, Metroid, Castlevania, Final Fantasy. Like when someone says, "Hey, picture a video game," uh, Zelda might be one of the first ones I picture.
so if what was as the overall arc, what would you have nitpicked? Like, what would you have tried to improve?
Personally, I honestly think the biggest problem with the Zelda franchise is trying to make it one big story.
Okay, make it more like Final Fantasy, where each kind of
Yeah, I'm okay with a handful being sequels, but to me, the real Final Zelda storyline is a bunch of people sitting around a campfire saying, "Did you ever hear the story of Zelda and Link?" And then he tells you a story, Ocarina of Time. And then the buddy sitting across him goes, "No, no, 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 no. The real story of Zelda and Link." And then he tells you Link to the Past. The finer details are different, but the overall idea of a princess and a heroic hero phasing off the forces of darkness are what is true to every story.
hmm
Well, almost every story. That one weirdo who talks about the time Link got lost on a magic island without Zelda is just the weirdo of the group. But the story is still entertaining, so no one gets too mad at them. But overall, that's what the Zelda franchise is to me. If I have to combine them into a storyline, I have a singular timeline with no branches. Legend of Zelda's official timeline got branched Ocarina of Time when Link went to the past, Link stayed in the past, Link dies. I'm sorry, but if a timeline is branched off by Link dying at some point in the story, that means every single Zelda game can have a branching off story point. Because I don't know about you, but some Zelda games can be pretty freaking hard.
yeah. Well, maybe they haven't
And
said there isn't.
And that's my problem. Like, if you're going to do that, you're going to need to start telling all of those side stories. Also, the whole thing that if Link stays in the past, or because the split is he saves the day and Zelda sends him back to the past to enjoy his childhood. That creates the split where he's in the past, but now there's no Link in the present. I'm sorry, but you've already been able to alter time in the game. That's not how time travel works in that game alone. So you've made a branch that I should have made when I opened the well. Got the silver gauntlets. There should be several points of that happening. That's not how time travel works. That's my biggest pet peeve with time travel is people just say, and now it's a split timeline. But it wasn't before when I killed that thing. How is that thing not creating a timeline split? Either it's always making split timelines or it's never making split timelines. Make up your goddamn mind.
Yeah. So,
Although, well, no, the worst thing is killing someone in the past, but then because their future version was time traveling, they're still alive. Sorry, that's why I stopped watching the Flash TV show.
oh, that got worse, but never mind.
Oh no, I know it got worse, but when that happened, every one of my other flaws in that show just became so magnified. I threw up my hands and walked.
But
But for you, what do you think of Zelda?
I'm kind of torn on that one.
Hmm.
On one hand, I view it a lot like Final Fantasy,
Yeah,
but on the other hand, there's so many connections between the Zelda
well,
games, unlike Final Fantasy.
there's a couple of Final Fantasy games with canonical sequels.
Yes, but
I
at the
mean,
same time,
yes,
it's easier to tell those.
yes.
Zelda has a lot connecting between them,
Mhm.
but the story is the weakest link between them.
That's why I go with the campfire
Yeah,
analogy, where everyone's
because like I was saying, there's always usually a Master Sword for most of them.
hmm
There's
not all.
usually a Zelda, and there's always been a Link.
Yeah,
and a few side characters, but there's always been a lot of linking between the games
Mm,
that, unlike Final Fantasy, where they have mostly just weapons named the same but look completely different,
yep.
like the Ultima weapon, um, some summons like Bismarck, Shiva, Gerudo, whatever. But they're easy to explain as that they're just summons with names that look like these creatures.
Hmm.
So that's easier to pass by.
That's why for Final Fantasy I look at it as the multiverse theory,
Mm-hmm.
but for Zelda I look at it as the campfire theory,
Right.
which the campfire theory really does cement it. It's basically a fantasy version of, hey, I want to remake Batman, and then you make a different version of Batman with the same baseline, but you decide to go in a different direction.
Right.
And when you reference, say, like Harley Quinn in this story, it's because you heard someone else's story of Batman and you liked Harley Quinn, so you wanted to show her in, and that's where the references between the two Zelda games come in. It's like, oh yeah, that guy's version of Zelda had a really cool parrot guy. I'm going to add him to my version.
Yeah.
It's the
So
easiest way to look at Zelda when you don't try and force a timeline.
yeah.
But if you have to force a timeline, why do you have to make it complicated? Why can't it just be point A to point B to point C to point D? Why is there a point D point 5?
So my question for you next,
Hmm.
for other than what we probably already said, with either having a blacksmith or just removing the breakable weapons, is
Hmm.
there anything you want to see in?
Playable Zelda.
Say that again because you said that.
Playable Zelda.
Ah,
I don't think we're going to get that, but I want that.
yeah. Anything else?
Anything else? Well, there's a few things they didn't add in from the first Breath of the Wild that I would like. They were going to add in the Minish from Minish Cap. I'd
Hmm.
like that. I'd like to have more of the species. I'd like to have the Deku show up. I'd like to have uh more villages,
Yeah,
like
a
see
couple
more
more
of the,
villages to see would be nice.
and especially I want there to be a reward for beating Breath of the Wild and having that in Tears of the Kingdom. Like I joke about having the motorcycle, but I'm okay with that without that. But I do want to have some save data crossover,
Well, it looks like they might be trying to explore from Skyward Sword the Sky Island idea.
which hasn't been there for thousands and 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 thousands of years.
So what I like I said, it's I hope it's not making us have to fly everywhere.
No.
Thank God.
They have, however, already copyrighted the means of how Link gets from the ground to the floating islands.
Teleporting?
Yeah, it's basically a teleportation where he sinks through the floating islands above him.
Shit, we are going to Zeal.
Uh, Kinda. We're also slightly Danny Phantoming through walls, but only one going upwards.
If we run into someone named Dalton, I'm throwing my hands up.
No, 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 no. Just a Magus.
God damn it. Eh, well, I got $20 says Link can kick his ass.
I mean, yeah.
I
I
mean,
don't
come
think
on,
he needs
what's the
to.
worst that happen? We will open a door and we see, oh, hello.
What in the world is this? Yeah, I think it's time we take a little break from video games. And by I think that that's so really think we should
Yeah,
change
the
video
last
games.
like five have been all video games, and I wanted to do something different. And with the new release of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse coming out, I think second quarter of this year, if I remember right. Don't
I
quote me
believe
on
so.
that.
Yes, yes.
But I
I can
think
quickly
it's
Google
time
that.
we talked about a movie in general. We did eventually. I got to bring that over to this channel,
Yeah.
but we did talk about Spider-Man as a whole. And I think now is a good time to talk about a movie and something that I think me and Em can both talk about.
Yep.
So,
It looks like it'll be June this year.
thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So, next episode will be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We'll talk about the movie.
What's up, Danger?
And just for the record, I still don't think he figured out the colors. I think he just got lucky.
I think he just got lucky.
So, once again, I'd like to thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Please, if you like this, subscribe and leave a comment.
Yeah. Tell us what your favorite Zelda game is.
Tell us what maybe some of your favorite Zelda moments were.
Or you can even tell us why you think Zelda is an overrated franchise.
I'll be more than happy to listen to your opinion. I just need you to share them so I can listen to them.
Yes. If we were
So,
mind readers, we wouldn't be doing this.
if we were mind readers, I'd be horrified. So, until next time, ladies and gentlemen,
Take
have a
care.
good night.